Hey guys, tonight we creep beneath the gnarly limbs of that old ash tree. You know, the one with bark like crumpled parchment. Its leaves shiver above us, 1,000 green tongues tasting the damp air. Bet you never noticed ash trees guard more than just squirrels. This grandfather trunk hoards stories instead of acorns, the kind that slither into your ears after midnight. And no, you probably won't survive what's whispered here. I'm obligated to say that. Lawyers, am I right? So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment too. Where are you right now? Minneapolis, Bangkok. And what's your local time? See if anyone's listening at the same hour. Maybe you'll make a spine-tingling pen pal. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You crouch under those branches, shoulders brushing damp moss. Remember how Vikings carved their first boats from ash wood. True fact, those planks supposedly held ocean ghosts, quiet during storms. But this tree, older, stranger. Its roots plunge into soil where Roman sandals once trod. Historians still argue whether Emperor Nero really burned a forest of ash trees to roast wild boar. Sounds like a guy who'd do that. Twilight thickens. Between the roots, something glints. An oil lantern winks at you. Beside it sits the peddler, patchwork cloak swallowing his shape. His face hides in shadow, except for a smile too wide for the hour. No teeth showing, just stretched fabric. You notice his cart first, woven from willow and studded with tiny mirrors. Each reflects your face back, but warped. Your eyes look hollow, your mouth a colorless line. Customers usually flinch, says the peddler, his voice like pebbles rolling downhill. No whisper, no boom, just there, between your temples. His hand drifts over the cart drawers, each labeled with symbols. A crescent drowning in ink. A keyhole swallowing stars. You came before moonrise, that's good. His finger taps the drawer etched with moth wings. No time for second thoughts once the sky bleeds silver. Your foot crunches a twig. The sound echoes oddly loud. Reality check. Ash leaves don't normally hiss when stepped on. But here, they're chatty. One brushes your neck, cold as a crypt hinge. Rude, mutters the peddler. He snaps his fingers. The offending leaf curls inward, crumbling to emerald dust. Their gossip unravels minds by dawn. Best ignore them. He leans closer, and you catch his scent, not sweat or earth. Old paper, dried lavender, and beneath it, something metallic. Oh, and a quirky tidbit. Medieval mystics believed ash sap could cure tongue twisters. No idea if it worked, but I'd pay to see them lick the bark. He opens a drawer. Inside rests a book, cover stitched with what looks like black hair. Tonight's tale comes from where you left off, or where you think you did. His nail, yellowed and hooked, flicks the clasp. The book sighs open. Pages flutter, not paper, dried leaves. Oak, maybe. Wind stirs. Lantern light gutters. As shadows leap, you swear the peddler's sleeves writhe. Nothing cute like snakes. More tentacles. The moment passes. He's just an odd man under a tree. Sure, whatever helps you sleep. The road waits, he says. Something thrums beneath your soles, a heartbeat not your own. Cobblestones ripple into existence. Moss creeps over their edges, softening the edges. Silver light bleeds from nowhere. This path belonged to silk merchants until they drowned it in bullion greed. His chuckle grates like a rusty hinge. But tonight, it leads elsewhere. You step onto the first stone. It's warm, living. The peddler's voice drops, each word wrapping around your spine. Move quiet now. The dark here chews noise and spits back echoes with teeth. Lantern light bobs. Strange how shadows seem hungry. They nibble at your ankles, whisper promises about shortcuts. Bet they'd taste like licorice if you licked one. Disgusting thought, but it keeps your feet moving. Ahead, the path forks. Left, a crumbling archway strangled by ivy. Right, a fog bank shimmering with faint lights. Pick, says the peddler, suddenly at your elbow. You never heard him move. No rules. Much weeping either way. Before you choose, his hand clamps your wrist. Cold seeps through your sleeve, careful with crossroads. His eyes, finally visible, are pure obsidian. No whites, just polished stone. One leads where you want, the other where you require. A shadow darts across the fog, something low and many-legged. The ivy arch groans, rust flecking off like dried blood. The peddler straightens, losing interest. Ah, but introductions trundle on, don't they? Pointless. He tosses a pinch of glittering dust at the lantern. Flame surges blue and the world tilts. Gravity shifts. Roots twist overhead, now below. Your stomach protests. This wasn't in the brochure. Apologies, says the peddler, now perched upside down on a root throne. His cloak flutters toward the ground that's now the sky. Perspective needs calibration. He snaps. Everything lurches, then settles. You're kneeling by the lantern. His palm hovers, offering something round and glossy. An acorn, but weightless as wishes. Hollow too, held to your ear, a faint hum thrums. Distant bells, dying bees. Twisted twice come sunup, he advises. But only where walls have ears and mice recite love poems. Cryptic peddlers, gotta love them. Your boot heel scrapes against wet stone, the sound echoing into a starless sky. This cobbled road hoards moonlight like silver coins, each step releasing trapped gleam between cracks. Historians whisper these paths mirror Rome's forgotten highways, their bones buried under centuries of dirt and delivery vans. Your breath hitches, not from chill, but recognition. How often did you stride asphalt without considering what ghosts paved beneath? Ahead, the road kinks left, swallowed by oaks, whose branches claw downward. Their leaves rustle with a rumor that Elizabethan Londoners once danced here during plague years, masks hiding their despair beneath owl-feather frills. You shuffle onward, curiosity trumping caution. Shadows deepen, twining around your ankles like insistent cats. That village the peddler mentioned, the one scrubbed from atlases, must be close, yet your phone's GPS blinks helplessly, trapped in a spiral of loading icons. Recalculating, it groans, drowning out the cricket's Morse code. Underfoot, the stones grow slick, veins of quartz threading through granite. You pass a milestone carved with symbols, a half-moon, a dagger, a teardrop. Historians still argue whether these markers mapped smuggler routes or warned travelers of tolls paid in memories. Your thumb traces the grooves, the rock humming faintly, a lullaby pitched too low for waking ears. Something glints in the ditch, glass shards green with age. You crouch, squinting, recognizing the curve of a wine bottle's neck. 18th century loot, if those mud-caked merchants infesting flea markets are right. A chuckle escapes you. Imagine hauling this back to the city. Yes, officer, this jagged relic. Found it beside a haunted deer trail. Let me show you the Yelp review. Moonlight spills thicker now, a syrup coating ferns and fox dens. You spot chimneys ahead, crooked spines jutting above the tree line. No smoke rises, just a haze clinging to rooftops like wet gauze. Remember, maps forgot this place. Yet here it breathes, weather vanes creaking in no wind. Your pulse thrums against your ribs, not fear, but the pull of discovery. A blackbird alights on a lichen-crusted wall, tilting its head. Its beak opens, but no birdsong follows. Instead, a woman's laughter ripples out, muffled yet close. You freeze, scanning the gloom. No footsteps crunch, no lanterns bob, just that laugh, itching beneath your skin. Left of the path, a well gapes, its bucket frayed to splinters. You peer in, the water below reflects nothing but your own silhouette. Odd, since the moon's bright enough to throw shadows. You nab a pebble, tossing it down. No splash follows. Instead, a wet cough echoes upward, as if the well just cleared its throat. You retreat hastily, catching your sleeve on a briar. The branch snaps, revealing a rusted hinge beneath leaves, a cellar door slumped into the earth. Kneeling, you brush off moss, finding a keyhole shaped like a child's handprint. Was this the village's wine cellar, or something less savory? Chroniclers note medieval nobles stored treasonous letters in similar vaults, sealed until the parchment sprouted mold like winter fur. A breeze snakes past, carrying salt and rotting roses. It nudges you toward the village square, where a stone fountain chokes on ivy. The statue atop it, a woman holding a jug, has no face, just smooth indents where eyes should glare. Someone's chiseled words into the basin's lip: drink and no thirst. Harmless graffito or friendly advice. Windows watch you, drapes drawn tight, yet you feel the prickle of unseen stairs. Upstairs, a candle flares, then dies. Your boots scuff the square's cracked tiles, once painted with zodiac signs. Aries the ram, Cancer the crab, their gilt outlines worn to ghost lines. Historians still argue whether these charts guided farmers or marked where traveling astrologers pitched their tents. A door creaks open, no hand visible on the latch. Inside, a hearth glows, embers sketching shapes on soot-stained walls. Your feet move before your brain protests, drawn toward that warmth. The air smells of burnt sugar and solidarity, the scent of shared secrets. Threshold crossed, the door slams behind you. Above the fireplace, an axe hangs, its blade serrated by time. Careful now. This might be where they welcomed guests, or trimmed unwelcome ones down to size. 3 stools circle a table, dented pewter mugs arranged with eerie precision, the dust shying away as you approach. One chair scrapes backward, inviting without words. You sit, elbows brushing the sticky wood, while the fire pops a warning. No host appears, no phantom maid offering nettle tea. Just silence, smothering as moth wings. Then, a thump upstairs, footsteps too heavy for floorboards that thin. Your nape hairs rise in salute, your knuckles white on the table's edge. Wait, didn't the tavern in that old outline demand a forfeited regret? Too late now, you're committed. The ceiling groans, a slow exhale of nails and timber. From the rafters drifts a single feather, downy and gray, landing in your palm. It smells of thunderstorms and unwashed hair. Familiar, though you can't say why. Outside, an owl shrieks, the sound closer than it ought to be. You pocket the feather, its spine digging into your thigh like a dare. When dawn cracks this village's facade, will you still believe it? Or will memory warp it, another dream dissolved in coffee steam? The fire dims, ash fluttering like black snow. Time to go before you become part of the furniture. You nudge the door open, wincing at its wail, and step into moonlight gone watery with dawn's approach. The village looks smaller now, shrinking under your gaze. The road home lies obscured by mist, but you'll find it. You always do. Just rub that feather between your fingers and walk toward the crow, cawing 3 times east of the ash tree. Your sleeve catches on thorns as you stumble from the tavern's yard. Each prick a tiny reprimand for lingering too long where regrets coil like vapor. Dawn bleeds through mist, muting colors, until the path ahead resembles an overwashed tapestry. Historians confirm medieval weavers spun wool with ground oak apples, their acidic tang warding off moths and melancholy alike. You trail fingers along a mossy wall, its stones unyielding beneath lichen's velvet caress, until a rhythmic clack-clack thud snags your attention. A crooked shop leans into the wind, shutters latched with braided horsehair. Above the door, a sign swings, carved with a loom half-wrapped in thorny vines. The weaver's den, no doubt. Those tapestries the peddler mentioned weren't metaphor after all. Your palm hovers an inch from the wood, the grain radiating cold, like touching a freezer door mid-August. It creaks inward before you knock, hinges gasping. Inside, shadows cling to rafters heavy with hanging cloth. Bolts of fabric drape every surface, some shimmering like oil slicks, others matte as forgotten graves. A woman stands at a loom wider than a coffin, her back rod straight. The clack-clack thud resumes, needles darting like minnows through warp threads dyed blackberry blue. Took you long enough, she rasps, not turning. Her hair escapes its bun in silver wisps, catching the single candle's glare. Most tourists bolt after the tavern's little trick with the... She pauses, yanking a tangled thread. Feather, your hand drifts to your pocket, the stolen plume suddenly warm against your thigh. Leave it be. The weaver snaps a thread between her teeth, spitting frayed ends into the gloom. That one's payment enough. Her gaze finally flicks up, eyes the gray of storm-swelled lakes. They flick to your face, your hands, your shoes tracking mud onto her rush matting. She gestures to the wall behind you. Pick a nightmare. You turn, inhaling sharply. Dozens of tapestries crowd the walls, their scenes stitched with threads that squirm when unobserved. Here a boy drowning in a well identical to the village's, his mouth wide around a cry, choked by embroidered kelp. There, a feverish crowd tearing apart a clockwork brick by brick, their needlepoint faces twisted with glee. Historians still argue whether the Bayeux Tapestry's 77-yard length deliberately matched Queen Matilda's rumored guilt-fueled insomnia. Relax, the weaver snorts, shuttling a scarlet thread through her loom. Not yours, yet a skeletal finger points to a smaller panel near the door. In it, someone who looks unnervingly like your 7th grade math teacher flees, flaming tax documents, stitched embers licking at their ankles. Everyone's scared of something boring. Bills, dentists, being forgotten by the barista who swears they know your order. You crouch, peering closer. The weaving shimmers, figures shifting when you blink. Mr. Henderson's panicked sprint becoming a stumbling waltz as the flames curl into roses. Absolutions overrated anyway. The weaver yanks a lever, the loom groaning as fabric tightens. Easier to dangle terror where people can poke it, like a zoo bear through iron bars. She clips a knot with scissors shaped like stork beaks. A rug squelches underfoot as you approach. Close up, her current work depicts a couple arguing beside an overturned cradle. The man's fists balled the woman's, face a blur of cross-hatched grief. Ah, the weaver taps the woman's smudged features. The trouble with portraits. Souls wiggle free unless you knot each stitch thrice. Learned that when King Louis XIV's mistress commissioned one, only to see her likeness unravel overnight into a rather flattering grapevine. You reach out, drawn by the tapestry's eerie pull. Don't, her hand slaps yours away, cool as marble. This one's still breathing. Threads pulse faintly where the infant's blanket lies trampled, vibrant crimson, darkening to old scab. A muffled sob echoes from the cloth, or maybe the rafters. The weaver scowls, plucking a needle from her sleeve. She jabs it into the tapestry's edge, the crying ceasing instantly. Better, she wipes the needle on her apron, leaving rust-colored streaks. They all beg for release once the pattern's complete. Same as mice in oat sacks, gnawing themselves, frantic. Your throat tightens, air suddenly thick with the stink of wet wool, and something muskier, like unearthed tree roots, after hard rain. She studies you, a slow up-down appraisal. You want the usual deal. Unpick one fear free of charge, and I'll weave its opposite into something pretty. A handkerchief to sop up tears, a kerchief to blindfold unsavory truths. Her smile reveals a gap where a canine should be. Trade's fair, no, fear for freedom. A yawn claws up your chest, untimely, unwanted. The weaver's shop hums with a drowsy thrum, heat leaching from the single candle into your bones. Or she jerks her chin toward a ladder leading downward, wood warped with age. I've got gilt weaves in the cellar. Last week's model, priests caught fleecing orphans, marked down to have remorse. Your foot shifts toward the ladder, the floorboard whining beneath your weight. Easy now. She blocks your path, apron strings fluttering, though no breeze touches you. Downstairs stocks not for casual browsing. Time was folk wandered in seeking comfort, stumbled out, haunted by regrets clearer than their own birthday. You retreat, bumping a shelf stacked with spools. One rolls loose, unwinding thread that glistens like snail trails across the floor. No harm done. The weaver snatches the spool mid-fall, tucking it into her bodice. Silvered sorrow, good for mending torn loyalties, also repels shrews, handy if your garden's plagued by high drama. The tapestry behind her ripples, a hound breaking free from its hunting scene to lap spilled moonlight off the floorboards. It pauses, tongue hanging, then retreats into the weave, leaving damp paw prints that fade as you blink. The weaver sighs at your expression. They're trained, mostly. You clear your throat, voice scratchy from disuse. How do I choose? Ah, she claps, dust motes swirling in her wake. The pupil learns. Whipping a tape measure from her sleeve, she loops it around your wrist, then your temples, muttering numbers under her breath. Fear's not the root, it's the rot beneath. Show me what festers, and I'll carve it clean. A rack of scissors gleams dully, blades curved like new moons. You hesitate. No scalpels today. She pockets the tape measure, threads gentler if pulled just so. Stepping behind you, she parts your hair with icy fingers, her breath smelling of burnt toast. There, that knot behind your skull. Her thumb presses a spot that flares hot, then cold memories surfacing unbidden. The layoff notice folded in your drawer. The voicemail you deleted unplayed. The half-packed suitcase under your bed waits, waiting, the weaver tuts, prodding harder. This one's quaint, like finding a musket ball in a playground sandbox. She retreats to her loom, plucking a spool of iron-gray thread. We'll spin this dreary dread into something useful. Braces for sagging truths, bootlaces for when life gets slippery. She threads the needle, the eye swallowing the gray filament whole. Hold still. This won't hurt. A lie, judging by her grin. Before you can flinch, she whips the needle through the air, thread arcing toward you like fishing line. It snags your shadow, pinning it to the floor, the silhouette thrashing as she reels it closer. Got you, she whispers, stitching frantic patterns into the fabric now. Your shadow stills, its edges blurring its substance, bleeding into the cloth. until both become a mural of your darkest Tuesday afternoon, pixelated and fading. There, she bites the thread, your shadow springing free, lighter now, smudged at the edges. Better. A weight you hadn't noticed lifts, shoulders easing, as if shrugging off a leaden cloak. The weaver flaps a hand toward the door. Off with you. Dawn's nosing through my keyhole, and you've a peddler to appease. As you cross the threshold, she calls after you. Mind the loose stones. Should have fixed that when I wove the mayor's dignity back into his trousers. Morning glows honey-thick on the path, birds chirping the all-clear. You glance back. The shop's gone, replaced by an ivy-choked well. Only your shadow, wavering yet unburdened, hints it wasn't a dream. A crow caws thrice from the ash tree, its feathers gleaming like fresh ink. Time to move. You finger the thread snippet caught on your cuff, still humming with the weaver's peculiar magic, and walk. The honeyed light thickens, clinging to your skin like sap as cobblestones yield to uneven flagstones. Ahead, laughter bubbles through a wall's fissures, raw and bright. Yet the structure wears no door, no arch, not even a beggar's gap wide enough for a whisper. You circle the weathered stones, fingernails catching on mortar chewed away by centuries of rain. 13 gargoyles crouch along the roofline, their mouths puckered shut, eyes rolled skyward as if mid-prayer. Historians note medieval innkeepers, often buried mummified cats in walls to ward off vermin, and tax collectors. A gargoyle shifts, granite joints grinding, drizzling dust into your hair. It leers down, tongue lolling, where a crack splits the wall beneath it. A finger-width slit, exhaling ale-soured breath. All right, entrance exam, rasps the stone guardian voice like gravel dragged over slate. Toss a regret into the gap, something juicy. Not that I shouldn't have skipped gym class, rubbish. You hesitate, palms slick. Quickly now, the gargoyle coughs, sending another shower of grit onto your shoulders. Ditherers get sour beer and worse ballads. You lean toward the fissure, hot air prickling your lips. The words stick dry husks until you force them out. I regret not visiting her the week she asked. The wall shudders, stones groaning as they part like rotten teeth, revealing a low passage. Inside, candle smoke hangs thick as wool skeins, stinging your eyes. Benches cram every inch, patrons wedged elbow to rib like salted herring. None turn as you sidle past their faces, flickering in tallow-light, haggard, grinning, streaked with drink or tears. You squeeze beside a woman, humming into her tankard, her hair braided with fishhooks that glint when she moves. Adrift 3 days, that one. She nods toward the hearth, where flames sculpt themselves into sinking ships. Traded his wedding band for the gut-rot brandy. Now the hearth's got his sorrow on permanent display. Sure enough, the fire surges, showing a gaunt man clinging to driftwood, waves battering his silhouette. Historians still argue whether 15th century sailors drank diluted gunpowder, believing it cured sea lung. A barkeep slams a clay cup before you, sloshing liquid black as printer's ink. Mind the dregs, he grunts, pointing to the sludge coating the bottom. Last pilgrim mistook them for coffee grounds, woke up reciting love letters he'd never sent. You sniff the brew reeking of burnt molasses and nudge it aside. The fishhook woman chuckles, plucking one from her hair. Wise, this stuff makes absinthe taste like toddler punch. She stabs the hook into the table where it stands erect, quivering. That regret you chucked out front, fresh cut, or old scar. Before you answer, a commotion erupts near the fire. A man lurches up, face flushed, shouting, "I traded my sister's dowry for a counterfeit alchemy text." Patrons hoot, flinging crusts at him as he crumples, sobbing. "Ah," sighs your companion, "confession hour." The room takes up a chant, another, stamping feet until dust sifts from the rafters. A youth rises, voice cracking. "I told the midwife my babe wasn't breathing when she was, just to spare us famine's bite." Silence swallows the room. The fishhook woman twirls her cup, her murky reflection rippling. Funny thing, regrets. Folk think voicing them shrinks the weight, but their seeds see. She taps the table, half smiling. One fellow sowed his shame over stolen sheep. Next morning, wool sprouted from his ears. The hearth flares again, revealing the young man's baby, now a girl of 5, chasing ducks in a sunlit yard. Someone drops a coin into his trembling hand. "For the ducks," they mutter before melting into the crowd. The barkeep slithers back, eyeing your full cup, not sharing your sorrow. Some pay extra for the deluxe mortification package, public weeping, hair shirt rental, the works. You shake your head, watching a drunkard balance spoons on his nose to scattered applause. Pity, business dipped since the apothecary started selling bottled forgiveness. He spits, hitting a spittoon 3 paces away with unnerving accuracy. 38 copper, a vial tastes like pickled optimism. A trio in ink-stained aprons begins a discordant ballad, their harmonies fraying with each verse. Oh, the miller's ghost haunts the yeast vat still. They found him drowned in his own ale spill. You wince at the high notes, edging toward a quieter corner. But the fishhook woman grabs your wrist. Leaving so soon, her grip bites, cold as river stones. They haven't brought out the memory bread yet. As if summoned, servants weave through the crowd, offering trenchers heaped with crusty loaves. Steam curls from each torn chunk, scented faintly with vanilla and brine. "Baked with weepy dough," explains your companion, ripping off a hunk. "One bite, and you'll recall everyone who ever gifted you violets." She chews slowly, eyes fluttering shut. "Mine was a chimney sweep, hands black as sin, left posies on my windowsill every frost moon." You decline, pocketing a crust gone hard as brick. The barkeep notices, grinning wide. Smart, last traveler nibbled some, fainted clear away, dreaming of a lost hound named Lord Fluffkins. Outside, a bell clangs hoarse and urgent. The gargoyle's voice booms through the walls. Moons setting, time sinkers settle tabs. Patrons scramble, dropping coins, kisses, odd trinkets into upturned helms. You slip toward the exit, your fishhook friend, now arm-wrestling a drover, her laughter sharp as shattered glass. The gargoyle eyes you as you emerge, stretching its wings with a sound like tearing parchment. Back so soon, barely dented your regret. It jerks its chin toward the wall, where a faint smudge stains the stones, the shape of your spoken words still shimmering. Wet, a breeze lifts, carrying the scent of moss and distant rain. Your shadow stretches long, thread-snipped edges, blurring into dusk. The tavern's din dims behind you, locked once more behind silent stones. Only the crust in your pocket remains, its forgotten mirth gone stale, but humming, somehow soft as a spent bell. You follow the road as it narrows, past hedges twined with thorny vines. Somewhere ahead, water murmurs low and insistent, a river hungry for names and midnight bargains. The ash peddler's promise coils in your memory, each step measured in breath and cobblestone and carried silence. The river exhales, a slow silver sigh against blackened reeds. Moonlight sketches the water's skin, ripples puckering like lips around half-spoken syllables. You crouch, pebbles biting your knees, and watch the current drag shadows downstream. Some snag on submerged branches, tangling into shapes almost familiar, almost names. Roman nobles once paid fortunes to etch titles onto lead curse tablets, then sink them in sacred springs, hoping the gods would muffle their enemies' voices. Here the water swallows identities whole. A bubble breaks, kissing the air with a wet pop. Then another. A hand breaches the surface, palm upturned, fingers knit from river grass and fishing net. The guardian rises, water sluicing off shoulders crusted with snail shells. Her hair writhes, eel-sleek each strand whispering a drowned syllable. Historians still argue whether Egyptian embalmers truly removed brains through the nose, but her hollow eyes suggest she'd find the debate quaint. Seeking a name, her voice rasps, a dock rope fraying under strain. Lost yours, have you? Or someone else's? You shake your head, knuckles whitening. Pity. She drifts closer, her breath sour with rotting lily pads, the ones who come begging for forgotten lovers. Now those are fun. Last night, a knight wept, begging me to resurrect his squire's nickname, Little Turnip. She snorts, algae dripping from her nostrils. Fish ate it years ago. A shape glides beneath her pale as drowned fingernails. Let's see your offering. She extends her hand, their webbing stretched thin between fingers. You empty your pockets, scattering broken quills, a chipped button, the memory bread crust. The guardian prods the bread, sniffing. Baked tears, amateur. But she pockets it anyway, the crust dissolving into greenish slime. The water stirs, churning up fragments of sound. Vowels sink fastest, she muses, plucking a silvery A from the foam. Consonants fight longer, especially K, nasty little hook of a letter. You kneel, dip your hand, and jerk back. The cold isn't water, it's absence, the chill of being unwritten. Clever fingers. The guardian grins, revealing teeth carved from river glass. Now speak true, what title do you seek? You hesitate. Quickly, the catfish are learning to spell. They'll snatch good syllables right off your tongue. A laugh escapes you, sharp, nervous, raw. The guardian stills her head, tilting like a heron spotting prey. Ah, she drifts nearer until her reflection swallows yours. You don't want to find a name, you want to lose one. The river quiets, even the frogs hush. She circles you, leaving a trail of floating pondweed. Too heavy, is it? That word they hung around your neck, chafing like a rusted chain. You nod, the motion brittle. Oh, child. Her laughter rasps, scraping your spine. Everyone comes here to shed labels, wives, thieves, bastards, saints. She gestures downstream, where a waterwheel spins slowly, its paddles slapping the surface. Touch that wheel, assign your name to it, and the river will grind it to froth. A fish leaps, catching moonlight, its scales etched with unreadable script. You step toward the bank. Wait, the guardian blocks your path, her body suddenly solid, reeking of silt and secrets. First, say it thrice. Voices hold power, never trust a silent sacrifice. You lick salt from your lips, once, twice, the third time sticks, a barbed hook in your throat. The waterwheel shudders its gears, gnashing like bad teeth. Currents curl around your ankles hungry. Goodbye then, unnamed one. The guardian sinks her hair, fanning out like ink, spilled in water. Mind the leeches. They're particularly fond of the newly anonymous. You wade in each step lighter, the river, peeling your shadow away in ragged strips. By the time you reach the far bank, only moonlight clothes you, and the whispers behind taste like someone else's grief. Ahead the road forks, one path dusted with ash, the other glittering with something sharp, something that might be stars or shattered glass. Your ghost, stripped of its name, tilts its head listening. Somewhere downstream, the waterwheel chuckles, chewing your letters into froth. The ash-dusted path unwinds before you, ribbon thin, under a sky clogged with burnt stars. Each step crunches, like stepping on frozen breath. To your left, glass shards wink, promising reflections that twist, hollow grins in moonlight. Ahead a glow pulses weak as a tired moth's wingbeat. 17th century London paid lamplighters in stale bread and grudging respect. But this one works cheaper. His cloak hangs, patchworked from last year's shadows, and his boots suck hungrily at the gravel. He turns, lanterns swinging, casting jumpy silhouettes on the ash-veiled road. Eyes milk blue, sensitive even to starlight peer from under a hat woven from crow feathers. The glass chimney cradles a restless flame, its heart blue-black, eating light instead of shedding it. You freeze unseen, but the wick crackles knowingly. Might as well shuffle closer. His voice rasps, matchheads scraping sandpaper. This flame's got 7 senses, none of them polite. Inside the lantern embers swirl, each a tiny eclipse. His left sleeve hangs empty, frayed threads curling like dead fiddleheads. Station mages claimed 12 extra arms once knitted roads from starlight. Most historians call that llama dung. Do you know why lamplighters go mute? He taps the glass, making the flame flinch. Seen too many faces in windows, ones that shouldn't be looking out. The lantern gutters, and for a breath, you glimpse figures pressed against its sooty walls, mouths open in silent pleas. Some claim gas lamps reduced crime. Others swear shadows got hungrier where lamps shone brightest. He spits, a gob of pitch-black phlegm hissing where it lands. Don't suppose you've got a name anymore. Guardians will chew yours to pulp. The flame licks eagerly, tasting your namelessness. You shake your head, ash dusting your collar. Smart. He chuckles, a sound like pebbles down a rusty pipe. I used to be Bartholomew Pickwick III, sank in the Thames with 3 pounds of marmalade and a tax collector's ledger. River spat back my hat, kept the rest. His lantern flares, revealing the inside of his hollow sleeve, crowded with ghostly fingers, knitting invisible yarn. He thrusts the lantern at you heatless, but heavy like cupping a dying star. You'll need this soon, those glass shard paths eat light like supper. You reach, but he jerks it back, flame guttering petulantly. Ah, barter first. His good hand flexes, knuckles knobby as old roots. 77 sons died to fuel this lantern, and you've got something worth trading. You open empty palms, river water still weeping from your sleeves. Show me your shadow. He squints, prodding the empty space behind you. Wasn't asking about pockets, shadows, where we stash what we can't admit. The lantern flame snaps, and your shadow peels reluctantly from the ashen ground, stretching thin as lamentation. Where the guardian's river stripped your name, the shadow lacks a head, just shoulders sloping into nothing. The lamplighter whistles dry wind through bare branches, running headless into the last stretch. Gutsy. He rummages inside his cloak, producing scissors forged from tarnished moonlight. Give me your scare, that knotted thing in your shadow's throat, and the lantern's yours till dawn. Fair. A choice, but he's already snipping, shears biting where your shadow's neck meets void. Something invisible unravels, threads snapping, and the tension in your shoulders dissolves like sugar in tea. The flame hisses, swelling, fed by the extracted fear. Here, he shoves the lantern into your grip, warm as fresh-baked betrayal. Rule 1. A gust slices through, nearly snuffing the flame. Never let it starve. His face hardens, crowfeather hat bristling. Feed it curiosities, old jokes, bad confessions. But never truths, truths make it sulk. You cradle the glass, your stolen fear, dancing inside, cast into grotesque shapes. The faces press closer, mouthing pleas against the smoke. The lamplighter retreats coat, swallowing him into the gloom. His final words drift back, muffled, and watch for faces in your footprints. You walk, the lantern's glow pawing hungrily at the dark. Soon, the road turns, and in the familiar ruts, your footprints glisten wetly with someone else's tears. The lantern gutters as you approach, its blue-black flame recoiling from the scent rising ahead, burnt honey and barley flour. Glass shards still grind underfoot, but now with the rhythm of pestles crushing grain. 17 steps onward, the ash path spills into a sunken courtyard, walls blackened by ancient ovens. Roman legions marched on sourdough, each soldier carrying starter dough like a squalling infant. Here, no such pragmatism remains. A woman kneads dough in a stone trough, wrists deep in grayish folds. Her apron glows faintly, stitched with wheat sheaves that ripple like real stalks. Took your time. She doesn't glance up, thumb jabbing a crater into the dough. Bring tears, or just spectate. Her hands work faster, palm heels, shoving, knuckles punching bulges back down. The trough rocks, protesting like an old dog. Historians still argue whether Babylonian bakers brewed beer from bread crusts. But this dough smells emphatically alcoholic. You extend your palms, still damp from the guardian's river, but she snorts. Amateur mistake, not those tears. She jerks her chin toward your shadow, headless, but now flickering anxiously. The first heartbreak, the one that didn't kill you, just turned your ribs into wind chimes. The lantern flame whimpers, drawing back as you crouch beside the trough. She seizes your wrist, fingers dusted with rogue flour, and presses your hand into the dough. It clings cold at first, then fever hot against your skin. Where your pulse flutters, the dough darkens, streaked with veins like split figs. Ah, her grip tightens, knuckles blanching. There's the ache. Medieval bakers hid fish bones in loaves to test doneness. You suspect this batch needs no such gimmicks. The dough buckles under your touch, sweating beads of brine that reek of adolescent mortifications, 7th grade dance disasters, awkward confession, notes gone rogue, the peculiar misery of unrequited love for your best friend's basset hound. She tears off a fist-sized lump, thumb carving a crude sigil into its belly. Eat slow, hasty chewing summons regrettable flashbacks to orthodontia. The crust shatters between your teeth sharp as sugar glass. Then the crumb unfurls, warm and yeasty, and your 6-year-old belly down in fresh grass, dandelion fluff catching in your hair. The sky sprawls, limitless azure, and you've just discovered laughter bubbles up differently when nobody's watching. Pure, giddy, unfiltered by performance. The courtyard swims back, but your mouth still cradles that sunlight. The baker smirks, wiping dough scraps onto her apron. Gluten-free folk weep extra when they taste that justice served cold with jam. Your shadow has regrown a head blurry, but present, crowned with dandelion fluff. The lantern flame noses the bread's remains, sniffing like a wary raccoon. Experiment 33. A voice pipes up from the ovens, a yeasty creature, all crusty elbows and dough-balled scalp, scuttles into view clutching a miniature baguette. Results prove sourdough starters respond poorly to heavy metal music. The baker flicks a flour clump at it, unimpressed. Note frequency of oven collapses increases 33% during lute solos. Go record that. The scribbled creature vanishes, leaving a trail of burnt sesame seeds. Here, the baker slaps a linen-wrapped loaf against your chest, its warmth seeping through your shirt. Pull a thread when you need it, each crumb holds a different forgotten giggle. You turn to leave, but her voice hooks your elbow. Mind the lantern snuffing itself, sentimental flames, hate existential joy, like cats hate cucumbers. The cobbled path resumes, now textured with fossilized rye husks. Behind you, a dough blob dislodges from the trough, splattering like weary applause. Ahead, something glimmers faint as a snuffed candle's afterimage. The path leans westward, heavy with the scent of unbaked promises. The path curves like a ribbon pulled taut, your shadow stretching ahead, as if eager to arrive first. Between half-collapsed columns, a garden runs wild copper, roses tarnished green, and hedges of singing wire. At its heart, perched on a sundial finger, perches the nightingale. Its body gleams brass, feathers layered like armor scales. One eye clicks, adjusting focus, while the other remains a vacant star sapphire. Historians still argue whether 18th century court automata could truly mimic birdsong, or if hidden pipers supplied the music through floor vents. This one's throat glows, a tiny bellows puffing steam with each chirp. A silver key hangs from its claw, shaped exactly like your third largest regret. That time you told your aunt her hand-knitted socks made your feet smell like compost. Key's bow curves like her wounded frown. You reach, but the nightingale swivels, mimicking the exact head tilt your high school crush used when EXPL, a I-N-I-N-G, Chinese letter science. Protocol dictates you wind it, lest it pecks your thumbnail bloody. The voice comes from a sundial gnomon, now uncurling into a woman made of corroded clock hands. She gestures with a sparrow-sized spanner. Insert, then twist, until you feel the click between your ribs. You fit the key, the metal cold as a dentist's chair in December. One turn, and gears grind behind your sternum. 2 turns, and the world dims, smells flattening into cardboard cutouts. 3, or is it 17, and the nightingale coughs, a gear-stuck sound like your alarm clock dying mid-ring. Then it sings. The melody pulls loose threads in your mind, lies you stitched tight over years. No, you didn't outgrow painting watercolor giraffes. You buried it after Marjorie Spinks called them deranged llamas. That allergy to your cousin's wedding, pure cowardice, terrified you'd slow dance alone. Your reflection in the bird's breastplate warps, revealing a version of you clutching a paintbrush, wearing mismatched socks, grinning like an idiot. Renaissance aristocrats allegedly used clockwork birds to eavesdrop on rivals, though modern replicas mostly shriek obscene Italian slang when overwound. This one crescendos, its song now vinegar sharp, dissolving your carefully curated alibis. You weren't busy, just scared. Didn't forget, chose silence. Never actually enjoyed kale. The gnomon woman taps the sundial where Roman numerals bleed tarnished tears. Historians still argue whether pharaohs used cobra-shaped automatons to guard tombs, or if that's just hype from ancient gadget catalogs. She shrugs, her shoulder cogs slipping. This bird guards nothing but raw truths cheaper than therapy, louder than denial. Laughter hiccups out of you raw, and glittering, startling the nightingale into a high G sharp. Its wings snap open, revealing tiny parchment scrolls where feathers should be. Each bears an inked confession, your own handwriting staring back, smudged by mechanical sweat. Dawn licks the horizon, the key disintegrating into copper filings. The gnomon woman salutes. Fold your shadow melts into dawn's gray light. As the gnomon woman's cogs finally jam mid-salute, leaving her frozen like a broken weather vane. Between crumbling garden walls, you spot a leaning mirror, its frame woven from tar-black thorns and tarnished vanity. Its surface ripples, not glass, but liquid mercury, imprisoned by leaded seams. Roman craftsmen often died young, poisoned by fumes, while polishing rich patricians' mirrors. Your own face swims up through the quicksilver, then keeps swimming, until another face treads silver behind your eyes. This reflection grins, wearing your cheekbones sharper, your shoulders braver, hair rebelliously uncombed. Historians still debate whether ancient Chinese truth-teller mirrors actually revealed one's virtues, or if magistrates just bribed the bronze casters. This one taps clawed fingers, leaving viscous dents that heal slow as pride. You flinch, stumbling over the sundial's finger, your pocket spilling copper filings, and one lint-covered peppermint. The other you catches the mint midair, unwrapping it with teeth your dentist always said needed flossing more. Curious how you apologize to chairs when bumping them. The reflection's voice echoes yours, but dipped in honey and reckless abandon. Their shabby boots dig into mercury like wet sand. Always wished you jumped aboard Pietro's rusted peddler cart that midnight he offered, instead of worrying about damp socks. Your throat tightens, remembering Pietro's whiskey-warm laugh, his wagon piled with moon-pale pumpkins. Victorian spiritualists claimed mirrors trapped souls of the vain, forcing them to watch future versions of themselves chew celery loudly. This reflection offers a hand, its knuckles scarred from brawls you dodged, nails painted the violent violet your mother called tacky. A moth lands on your collar, its wings mapping every crossroads you hesitated at. Step through, you could have mastered the accordion, opened that doomed cat cafe, sent that postcard to Bolivia. The other, you winks, their eyes twin whirlpools of roads untaken. Step back and keep wondering. Mercury laps at the mirror's edge like a hungry dog. You exhale, counting 12 heartbeats as thunder drums inside your ribs. The reflection mimes playing an accordion horribly off-key as the mirror's thorns curl into beckoning arches. Its mercury shows a sunlit kitchen where you're piping frosting onto disastrous cupcakes. A tabby cat stealing sprinkles, your laugh looser than any lute string. Cobblestones warm underfoot, real or imagined, as you lean closer. The other you mouths, trampoline warehouse, with shameless glee. Historians still argue if Renaissance mirror mazes were metaphors for indecision, or just expensive trip hazards. A thorn snags your sleeve, its whisper strawberry sweet. Come taste the daylight where you dared. Dew soaks through your left shoe, proving at least half this world's still real. You grip the frame, the lead biting cold, and breathe in the lies. Old spice and acrylic paint and sugar burning. Somewhere ahead, accordion music swells, a dozen off-key cats shrieking along. Your sleeves smell of burned sugar and crushed violets as the mirror's mercury reluctantly releases you, its thorns snagging goodbye threads from your hem. Ahead spans a bridge cobbled from contradictions, pillars of seagull bones lashed with braided kelp. The walkway itself shifts underfoot, thousands of feathers overlapping like impatient scales. Not eagle plumes or crow quills. These are the dingy grays of pigeons that dodged city hawks, the frayed browns from hens that outlived their coops. Each step crunches faintly, the sound of wishes given up for cautious things. Romans once read omens in how birds flew, but here lie only the grounded ones, their surrendered flights woven into this creaking path. Tread slow. One careless stomp sends egret down swirling into the ravine below, taking someone else's abandoned courage with it. The right rail feels warm, black swan feathers still holding Sahara sun. The left chills your palm, penguin belly fluff from Antarctic ice shelves. A Cornish legend claims flightless birds carry humanity's stubbornness. And dear ancestor, aren't we overpacked with that? Your right shoe slips, a pink ostrich plume squawking in indignation, its barbs puffing up like an insulted debutante. Mid-squawk, it deflates, whispering, forget the ballet lessons mother paid for youngest daughter. Never pointed her toes, right anyway. Halfway across, the bridge shudders its cables groaning with secrets exhaled. Below, a canyon inhales its depths, humming discarded plans and half-baked what-ifs. Historians still argue whether early dodos died from Dutch sailors or simple heartbreak after eating all their favorite fruit. Breath deep. That's your 11-year-old sigh swirling there, the one you swallowed when Tommy Vance called volcanoes childish. Your science fair diorama crumbling like week-old cake. The air ripens with the peppery grief of road trips not taken, jobs declined, letters thrown into chilly lakes. You steady yourself on a cluster of goose feathers, each vein etched with resignation. Ever notice how penguins waddle, as if apologizing for their impeccable tuxedos in casual settings? No, just me. Then don't answer. Light laughter jerks the bridge left from an unseen galley of guillemot feathers. They still miss that solo. Audition Day 1987 preferred their shower rendition anyway. Ahead, the far bank looms, moss slick and indifferent. Each feather here hums louder, a chorus of clipped wings dreaming upwards. Some claim emus bury their heads not from shame, but to listen for subterranean regrets. Digging tunnels will stumble into centuries later. Your shoelace unties naturally as you kneel, fingers brushing a cluster of kiwi feathers. Their velvet whisper fierce, Remember how you wept over that failed pottery class. Yet your hands shaped survival daily, clumsy masterpiece. Keep moving. Wind rifles through the bridge, plucking tawny snippets of pheasant undercoating. They spiral spelling regrets in cursive only the canyon comprehends. 13,000 feathers hold you above the abyss, barely, always barely a maths that tethers all fragile crossings. One heavy step, then another, lungs burning with the ghost of last Tuesday's unsent text. When your souls finally meet solid earth, the bridge exhales, its feathers dissolving into dandelion fluff, sailing back toward those still clutching their what-ifs. Your pockets sag, heavy with pebbles, until you realize they're not rocks, but hardened sighs, light as cloud seed, ready for planting. A single emu feather clings to your sleeve, its barbed edge glinting, a question sharp enough to draw tomorrow's yes. Your souls sink into moss thick as unmailed apologies, the emu feather still hooked on your cuff, like a comma waiting to finish its sentence. Ahead, a cottage slumps under ivy, its roof sagging beneath centuries of shelved confessions. No need to knock, wrought hinges surrender as you approach, revealing walls papered with torn envelopes. Their broken wax seals glint, still guarding royal titles, dusted lovers, pet names, ink bled from tears. She sits amid the museum of might have been, her fingers tracing a birch bark letter from some Viking's jilted fiancé. No quills here, just a chipped teacup holding fountain pens that leaked their last metaphors. You smell lavender sachets, dying roses pressed into birthday notes, and the sharp tang of jealous words too sour to send. Victorian London, once sent over 1 million letters daily, forgot now, except in attics like this, where paper hoards moonlight. A medieval scribe's ghost mutters near the fireplace, complaining how modern ink lacks the grit of crushed beetle wings. Hawthorn gall, that noble pinch of arsenic for permanence. The keeper lifts her head, spectacles fogged with steam from a singing kettle. Her hands, swirled with paper cuts, caress a cedar chest banded in iron. It groans when prodded, a menagerie of vowels rattling inside. Historians still argue whether Napoleon's final plea to Josephine ever smoldered in a general's campfire, or simply drowned in her perfume drawer. You shift, and your pocket pebbles clack, those petrified sighs restless for release. Choose one, she rasps, gesturing to pigeonholes crammed with envelopes. Some pulse faintly, others crumble at a breath. Or add yours to the vault. A pink triangle flap catches your eye, the stationery of a seamstress who rewrote the same declaration for 61 years, penning her love maybes every solstice. Next to it, a prince's draft disowning his throne over a stable hand's laugh, unsigned when his hound ate the page. Turns out monarchs procrastinate too. Couldn't blame the dog at press conferences. Naturally, your thumb brushes a vodka-stained postcard, all capital letters blurring through a Latvian winter. Apparently key lime pie solves most existential crises at 3 a.m. when you press a fist to your chest, the unsent words coil tight. A hiss trapped in a soda can shaken too hard. That birthday apology, never mailed, the furious screed deleted mid-typing the thank you that blurred into grocery lists, all knotted behind your ribs. The keeper slides a lacquer tray toward you. Blank paper awaits. But every pencil here remembers too much graphite grief to cooperate. Macy, the resident mutt, nudges your knee. Her collar dangles a locket stuffed with teenage breakup haikus, iambic oaths dug up from backyard graves. She wheezes, flopping against a bundle of military mail, bundled in silk, ripped from a Parisian bridesmaid's dress. Historians agree that particular silk was dyed with fermented pomegranates, though fringe archivists swear courtesans added absinthe to make ink shimmer with ghosts. You reach for a pen, its nib trembles midair. Funny how a keypad's autocorrect feels crueler than any ink blot. The air tastes of graphite and bergamot, blackwing pencils dissolving into attic dust, lemon rinds fossilized in stationary drawers. Something rattles the chest, maybe Emily Bronte's unfinished sequel to Wuthering Heights, or Dave from Milwaukee's passive-aggressive Yelp review draft about artisanal pickles. The keeper hums, tapping Morse code against her saucer, probably the chorus to ABBA's "The Winner Takes It All" foreshadowing, or just poor impulse control. Your fingers hover your throat clicks, ready to spit out the letter titled things I should have whispered after Dad's funeral. Macy whines, burying her snout in your lap, her tags chiming like tiny church bells. Outside, dusk stains the forgotten forest path. The chest creaks louder, its lock rusted with indecision. Two choices: slide your folded silence inside, where it will sigh among billions, or keep those pebbled sighs rattling in your coat, sharpening against bus tickets and lint. Either way, that emu feather drifts to the floor, a final punctuation mark too frail for any envelope. Light seeps through petal-thin walls. This greenhouse hums with the hush of punchlines buried too soon. Cobblestones curve underfoot, each one engraved with a comedian's last breath before stage fright stole their finale. You pass roses that reek of slapstick, their velveteen folds releasing giggles when brushed. A topiary crocodile grins, hedge clippers still lodged where its woodpecker punchline flew off script. Something crunches under your heel. A monocle lens, shattered beside a dented bowler hat, petrified in hydrangea roots. Victorian humor loved absurd props. One aristocrat mailed his neighbor a live emu stuffed inside a grandfather clock, allegedly. Yellow dahlias dip toward you, whispering half a knock-knock joke, ending with "Who's there?" Honestly, I forget. Their pollen dusts your sleeve, smelling faintly of canceled open mic nights. Ahead, marigolds writhe into the shape of a mic stand, dropping copper petals like forgotten callback lines. Historians still argue whether Shakespeare's gravediggers improvised their morbid jokes, or if the bard plagiarized some drunk friar's tavern quips. You tread softer, Foxgloves lean close, their bell throats buzzing with sitcom laugh, tracks from discontinued shows. The keeper's dog, Macy, waddles ahead, snuffling at mushrooms shaped like cymbal crashes. Her tail thumps a stone bench carved with heckler put-downs, so polished by centuries of rear ends, the insults gleam like black mirrors. 3 gray moths flutter up, their wings dusted with puns, so terrible they fossilized mid-chuckle. Avoid those, mutters an ivy-cloaked statue, its mossy lips twitching. Last week, a historian tried cataloging them, woke up rhyming everything with orange. You smirk, plucking a stargazer lily. Its white throat peels open, unfurling not pollen, but a ribbon of song. A disco bass line thumps, followed by your aunt's infamous karaoke night, where she mangled Bohemian Rhapsody into a tax-deductible business expense. The melody wilts, leaving glitter on your fingertips. Nearby, a Venus flytrap snaps at a bluebottle fly, missing its jaws, clicking like a failed dad joke. Rain begins, pattering on glass panes etched with cartoon speech bubbles fogged by time. Each droplet rolls down, collecting in terracotta pots, labeled unused roasts, canceled burns, compliments backfired. Puddle reflections twist, showing open mouths, frozen mid-guffaw strands of saliva, gleaming like diamond threads. The Romans flavored wines with actual laughter, or so fringe recipe scrolls insist, collecting giggles in bell jars for winter melancholy. Macy shakes off, splattering your jeans with stand-up tears. She noses a sprout rising between flagstones. It unfurls into a daffodil shaped like a whoopee cushion. Its squeak echoes, releasing the ghost of a fart joke band in 12 kingdoms. The statue groans, that one's contagious, stand back. But your snort already escapes, ricocheting off sundials calibrated to giggle intervals. Lightning cracks, illuminating a willow, whose weeping branches curl into Groucho Marx's eyebrows. One leaf tickles your neck, whispering Henny Youngman's lost callback from 63. Thunder mumbles the setup. You supply the groaner punchline. As hail pelts a rhododendron, printed with Rodney Dangerfield's discarded necktie patterns, the keeper materializes, holding an umbrella spun from vaudeville posters. Her clogs squelch, printing setlist outlines in the mud. Pluck wisely, she murmurs, gesturing to peonies throbbing with untold roast battles. Some blooms bite back. You crouch, fingering a chrysanthemum that whispers your third-grade class clown's comeback, the one Mrs. Harrison called inappropriate, yet still quotes at yoga retreats. Raindrops slide down your collar cold as a quiet room after bombed improv. The garden's soil drinks it greedily, swelling with seeds of sarcasm, yet unsprouted. A prickly pear cactus near your knee swells, bursting into a puff of fake mustaches, all coated in invisible ink from backfired flirtations. You pocket one, its glue still sticky with desperation from some Regency dandy's disastrous first date. Macy digs up a time capsule, a pickle jar jammed with doodles of grumpy cats wearing Shakespearean ruffs. The keeper tuts. That cash should have stayed buried, but you're already unscrewing rusted lid. Yellowed paper scraps flutter, covered in knockoffs of Why Did the Chicken jokes abandoned midway when their writers became actuaries or monks. Sunset bleeds through clouds, striping the greenhouse in golden hour glow. Historians agree big bands hid jokes in Morse code during wartime broadcasts, though nobody cracked Louis Armstrong's alleged trombone solos. You press a hand to the clammy glass, watching your breath fog a pane etched with cartoon hecklers. Their speech bubbles refill, this time with your own unsaid singers from work meetings, family dinners. That text thread you overthought into oblivion. The keeper offers shears their blades, notched from trimming punchlines. You hesitate, eyeing a tulip throbbing like a held-in snort. Behind it, a Venus flytrap snaps, catching a firefly mid-dad joke delivery. Green light pulses from its trapped jaws, casting shadows like flickering vaudeville ghosts. Thunder rumbles an applause track. Macy whines, burying a rubber chicken under hydrangeas, its squeaker deflated by decades of drizzle. The keeper's umbrella drips borscht belt one-liners onto your shoes, each droplet hissing slightly. When you finally snip a lily of the valley, it chimes, unspooling your college roommate's vodka-fueled wisecrack about philosophy majors. The keeper nods, plucking a thorn from her thumb, whose bead of blood blossoms into a tiny rose made entirely of sarcasm. Lightning forks, etching the greenhouse walls with silhouettes of comedians mid-crowd dive. Rain fades to mist, the pebbled path now steaming with escaped punchline residue. A sundial's shadow points to happy hour, its brass surface tarnished by too many "that's what she said" jabs. Macy trots ahead, her collar bell jingling the theme to a sitcom axed after 3 episodes, forever unresolved. You glance back, the greenhouse already dissolving into twilight, last chuckles echoing against glass, like moths trapped in jars. The emu feather, still damp, drifts from your pocket. Wind carries it toward a topiary shaped like a mic drop, petrified midair. Forever hovering between applause and silence, dawn smudges the horizon, ash bark rough under your palm, as the peddler's gnarled fingers uncurl. Inside, a hollow acorn rests, so weightless it might float from your grip. Plant this, he rasps, nodding toward your chest, not the earth beneath your boots. Historians agree Celtic tribes ground acorns into flour during famine winters, though few admit it tastes like rust and regret. You roll the shell in your palm, its surface smooth as a coward's promise, air whistling through a puncture no wider than a lie. Fringe naturalists insist hollow acorns house exiled forest spirits, their whispers pruning bad thoughts come solstice. Around you, the trees' roots hum, vibrating with every sob you swallowed in traffic, every apology left unsent. Wind plucks at your collar, drafty as an eviction notice. The peddler's shadow stretches long and gaunt, already half faded from this grove. Last night's brass coin still warms your pocket, its edges dissolving like sugar in tea. Scholars bicker whether Roman soldiers carried oak charms for courage, or just blamed tree spirits for tactical blunders. He taps the acorn once, its hollow core echoing with the click-clack of a train track, or maybe a final heartbeat. Rain begins needle-thin, prickling your scalp. Each droplet avoids the acorn, as if respecting its emptiness, a temple for unwritten futures. You scan the horizon, blurs of charcoal and pearl smeared across waking hills. Where? You whisper, fearing the answer. His laugh rasps like dry leaves, brief bitter. Ache reveals the spot, don't it? His gaze flicks to your sternum, where rejection still knots like wet rope. Lightning forks, but the thunder never comes stifled by the ashes canopy. You remember crumbling chapels, salt flats, that shoebox beneath your childhood bed, all hiding things too tender for daylight. Some say lightning seeks oaks, but never ashes, a feud dating back to some godly divorce nobody recalls clearly. The peddler's boots scrape backward, mud sucking at his soles, as shadows bleed into his outline. Your thumb brushes the acorn's rim, feeling its fragility, so unlike the weighted oak it might have been. Historians still argue whether Neolithic villages buried hollow nuts with their dead fuel for hypothetical underworld bonfires. Wind gusts, showering you with winged ash seeds, whiskery things that cling like regret to wet denim. The peddler's voice thins soon now. His shape ripples, a reflection in disturbed water. Dawn bleeds gold through his chest, striping the acorn in trembling light. You fumble for gratitude, thanks, but your throat hoards words like blunt teeth. One step back to his ragged coat, dissolving like smoke. Third step, only mist remains, faintly smelling of horsehair and loneliness. Lightning flashes again, etching his silhouette against the ash trunk, arm raised, as though catching rain, then empty. Raindrops patter the acorn's hollow, plinking a nursery rhyme from your infancy, half forgotten, the one grandma hummed between chemo naps. Birdsong erupts sharp as a cork pop, and the grove exhales, waking ordinary under washed clean skies. You turn the acorn, spotting a hairline crack, no bigger than a lie's first tremor. Some believe planting emptiness invites demons. Others insist it's how gods grow. Your ribs tighten, old scars prickling as you kneel in sodden loam. Fingernails dig into cold earth, unearthing grubs and quartz, working past strata of lost mittens and skate keys. Damp seeps through your jeans, a chill rising like stage fright. Pocket lint, a subway token, 3 almonds tumble beside the hole, a clumsy sacrifice to the underworld landscapers. Acorn poised, glinting like a snipped lock. Wind pauses, ash leaves holding their breath. Drop it, don't debt, or deliverance sealed in cellulose. Closing your eyes, you hear a tide retreat, stones tumbling midnight smooth. Your palm hovers shaking when dawn's first direct sunbeam pierces the hollow core, igniting a tiny prism against the burrow's flank. The light winks a promise, an accusation, before guttural thunder finally growls from the west. Hollow heart meets peppered soil, a muffled thump, barely audible over your pulse. Cover it quick, patting dirt like tucking in a child after nightmares. Raindrops pock the burial site, merciless, washing away fingerprints, doubts, last night's path through laughter and moths. A crack splits the dawn horizon, fracturing clean, as the ash tree drops one final seed into your hair. Its spiral descent mirrors the acorn's fate, yet this one's solid, dense, with selfish potential. You let it fall, joining spent petals and beetle wings, while below the hollow gift drinks deeply. Sun climbs steaming the grass as you stand on shaky legs. Somewhere down there, emptiness swells, patient as ink in water, maybe sprouting gnarled timber, or a tunnel to kinder realms, or just more hollow things. The ground remains still, no tremor, no crackle of roots unfurling, just ordinary mud beneath cheap sneakers. Yet when wind gusts again, it carries peppermint and wet stone, not the subway stench that clung till yesterday. Brushing soil from your knees, you turn homeward, past gates rusted open, past hedges clawing at your sleeves. Branches snag the coin in your pocket, lightening your load, leaving its silhouette embossed on the denim. Behind, a single sprout breaches the dirt, pale as a knuckle arching east. Its tip glistens, either dew or something tender waking. Ash leaves applaud softly as morning swallows the grove whole. Your fingers linger on damp bark, still humming from last night's buried promise, when a ripple travels up the ash trunk. Something square drops, thumping roots like a misplaced heartbeat. Dust plumes, revealing a leather-bound tome thicker than your thumb. Experts think medieval scribes stretched calfskin over prayer books. But this cover feels warmer, dappled like mushrooms on a rotting log. You crouch, cobwebs breaking against your cheeks. The spine groans when lifted, pages exhaling moss and cloves, playful bergamot undercut by wet dog. Ever heard of anthropodermic books? Fringe archivists whisper about grimoires bound in human skin. Yet this texture resembles both hide and heirloom velvet. Brushing dirt reveals gilt letters, faded to indecipherable nubs, and wormholes tunneling through Ovid quotations. Each page rattles softly against its neighbor, a shiver of vellum wings. Press your ear close, hear whispers not from text, but the margins. They murmur, repeating petty arguments you had last Thursday. No, you forgot the almond milk, in a voice matching your own. Historians still argue whether doodles in ancient gospels represent boredom or secret heresies. Wind flips pages aggressively, halting at chapter IX. A woodcut stains the parchment, something between a squid and a chandelier arms ending in teacups. Its caption glows faintly. Best wishes, the Midgard serpent employee of the month, 1,347. Raindrops avoid the book like cats, avoiding cucumbers, leaving cryptic illustrations crisp. Your thumb catches a corner dingy as a forgotten gym sock. The margin hisses, impertinent digit. Ink squirming to avoid touch. You smirk, wondering if illuminated manuscripts ever roasted monks this way. Flip to a random folio. It coughs up half sentences about Carthaginian irrigation, interrupted by splotches shaped like screamed vowels. Something inside twitches, thin as a mayfly's ghost. The book arches against your grip, cracking its spine with the menace of knuckles. Blotchy letters swim into focus, spelling faint declarations of primrose supremacy before dissolving into Rorschach moths. One fluttering stain becomes your third-grade teacher, waggling a finger about overdue homework. Sunlight dapples through ash leaves, gilding a footnote that wasn't there before. NB. All contracts signed in lemon juice require werewolf notaries. The text shimmers, briefly praising Ptolemy's 5th draft of map-making for depressed warlocks, before regurgitating grocery lists from 1996. Hands shaking, you snap the covers shut, sweat smearing Ouroboros doodles on buckled leather. Silence. Then a sonorous belch followed by a yawn rippling pages like distant thunder. It hiccups, the vibration summoning pressed violets that crumble instantly. Heavy mist rises from the boards, reeking of library finds, and unstable ink, your nose wrinkling, as the book murmurs excuses about organ failures. You dare another peek, gently prizing covers open to midfield. New text congeals rowing boats made from toenail clippings, or the correspondence of Pope Pius III's disgraced hairdresser. One sentence starts recommending fermented hedgehog mustache wax, then blacks itself out in shame. Fingertips graze a raised watermark, pattern familiar as your own nails. It matches the hollow acorn's puncture, same jagged star. Press down, the book gulps, binding loosening like tired shoulders. Warmth spreads through pages, inciting feverish puffs of time and panic. A map blooms, charting wine shops, where Dante's lesser-known infernal interns drowned sorrows. Margins wobble ink, retreating from centerfold creases as diagrams reshuffle. Blueprints for Gothic buttresses fold into fortune-telling wombats, then collapse to doodles of mustachioed turnips. Parchment dimples under breath quivering as footnotes schism into 18 dialects of awkward silence. The book whimpers when tilted, complaining through leather vibrations, so you flatten it on roots scribbled with fairy curses. Provençal love poems flicker briefly behind the eyes of a depressed manticore. Someone's lost sock manifestos compete with Vivaldi sheet music, annotated by tipsy angels. Vellum pulses, responding to your pulse, syncing arrhythmias like old friends. Heat radiates faint, but insistent, as the book commits to palpitations. Flip faster, pages flutter a white flag, revealing pressed daisies plus tax fraud allegations against Charlemagne's favorite horse. A pressed four-leaf clover crumbles, confetti over instructions for brewing lightless cocoa. Illustrations jostle an owl-headed widow winking, brimstone recipes, scoring margins with protest graffiti. When you linger on necromantic pudding techniques, the book snaps shut, pinching your thumb sharply. Wind wrestles pages open again, exposing proud illuminations of flatulent satyrs. Their expressions mirror subway performers demanding applause. You squint, deciphering Levantan curse tablets, repurposed as couples therapy exercises. 17th century wheat prices bleed into lewd parables about beetroot cultivation, pitching tentatively toward agricultural smut. The book sneezes, launching a pressed cicada husk, now wedged tragically in your hairline. Shadows lengthen, text growing restless, paragraphs, reenacting the Battle of Agincourt using punctuation marks. Arrows of semicolons pierce noun shields beneath indifferent chapter headings. One footnote lists serf grievances against supernatural landlords. Another touts hangover cures involving pigeon spleen. You trace an indentation shaped like a teardrop, page flesh recoiling, uncovering lost moon phases preferred by lovelorn astrologers. The book sighs, ribbons fraying, leaking blue-black mucus onto your jeans. Ribbons squirm, attempting friendship bracelets, while something yowls behind the index. Historians disagree whether scream-shaped ink blots in bestiaries indicate demonic possession or medieval pranks. Margins rattle again, this time whispering Sellers' remorse before dissolving into nursery rhyme potion recipes. Dusk blurs words, some letters drifting off page edges, escaping into root networks. Snatches of troubadour insults hover brief as fireflies, then gutter like cheap candles. The book dims content to exhale riddles about salted carp entryways, until gentle thunder rolls the story toward dawn's first yawn. Crickets saw melodies, matching the book's wheezing tempo as it slackens against root knuckles. Final pages confess, in dripping red capitals, lunar-based debt collection tactics banned in 14th century Florence. A hand-drawn judge sentences whining consonants to grammar dungeon, complete with tiny stockades. Leather cools, slick now with evening dew, as the last footnote blinks sleepily. It admits, after several false starts, that epistolary etiquette for Crocken courtship remains sadly undefined. You lower the book, its protests fading, just as ash leaves brush your forehead with tomorrow's unfinished clauses. Your palm slides against moss-slick stones, encircling the well, chill, seeping into fingerprints. Historians note medieval villagers shared secrets with these depths to avoid church tithes. But this cistern thrums differently. Moonlight fractures on murky water 20 feet below, each glint a winking eye, daring you to bend closer. You grasp the rope, hemp fibers prickling like misplaced guilt. One tug, the bucket lurches, chains groaning, as submerged metal scrapes silt. Did you know Roman aqueduct engineers sometimes left curses in mortar seams? Workers poured bottled grudges into foundations, hoping to sabotage rival builders. Listen, The pulley creaks in hexameter, a steady clink thud marking each rotation. Water sloshes up, a liquid darker than mere shadow, slick, with swirling rainbows like oil on puddles. It weighs thrice what water should, forcing trembling arms to haul hand over hand. The bucket brims not with H2O, but thick whispers pressed together. They squirm, vowel-shaped droplets escaping over rusty edges, plinking back into gloom. Spill it, the well commands without sound, its presence humming in your molars. You tilt the pail, viscous secrets pour onto thirsty earth, sizzling where they meet late dew. Words sprout instantly, violets bursting through soil in violent purple clusters. Each blossom voices a murmured truth, tiny petals forming confessional lips. One bloom rasps about your hidden fear of houseplants. Another giggles, 7th grade diary cringes. 17 petals unfold, spelling out that time you lied about lactose intolerance to avoid dull parties. A historian's voice rises from tangled roots below, arguing whether Joan of Arc's visions were divine or ergot poisoning from rye bread. Violets rustle agreement, leaves sketching papal seals in midair, pressing your ear to a blossom. You hear Cleopatra's frustration with asperlated PR. It's always suicide, never allergies. Another flower spills, Byzantine tax evasion schemes, using hollow oranges. Laughter tickles your neck, the well shaking loose mummified gossip. Try the mauve one, suggests a voice like silt shifting. Pluck it, the stem bleeds ink-black sap. Its confession unfolds in sonnet form, Shakespeare morning, a lost sonnet to moths. Violets sway with theatrical sighs. Then gossip about Hamlet's first draft being titled "That Danish Dude Who Overthinks Stuff." A quirky fact surfaces. Tudor stagehands used dried pea pods for ghost sound effects. Your heel crushes a blossom by accident. It wails, shrieking your middle school cafeteria humiliation, until neighboring violets muffle it politely. Secrets pile up, rooting relentlessly, tangling around ankles. Remember squirreling spare fries in pockets. The well grumbles, depositing a greasy spectral French fry as evidence. Suddenly, bubbles erupt below, churning up a leather-bound tome. It surfaces, Daniel Defoe's lost pamphlet proper methods of silencing noisy spectral vermin, only to disintegrate when touched. Historians debate whether public confession springs from piety or theatrical spite. The well burps, spattering your sleeve with whispers about Archimedes' bath time playlists. Moonlight waxes, forcing shadows into unlikely alliances across the clearing. A cluster of violets merges, forming a fist-sized bloom that hums Wagner off-key. Your childhood fear of quicksand pours out, followed by its antidote, cartoon ostrich logic. Gradual warmth spreads through the flower bed, heated by microbial shame digestion. One particularly brazen violet details Louis XIVs corns their ache during Versailles dance mandates. Another sings lullabies composed by lovesick Etruscan shepherds, lyrics forgotten until now. You linger kneeling among whispering petals until soil rumbles softly. Violets dissolve like sugar sculptures in stormwater, fleeting as regretted words. Only fragrance lingers, sweet and melancholy, as dawn bruises the horizon. The well exhales, a mist of half-heard symphonies, before silence reclaims its depths. Water stills, reflects your face, transformed, some confession rooting behind your eyes now. Dawn licks the horizon, streaking the ash leaves with tarnished silver. Your knees ache from kneeling by that confessional well, soil still clinging like old regrets. The peddler materializes without footsteps, his shadow merging with the tree's spiderweb cracks. He extends a palm, Wyra, the hollow acorn, rests, a minuscule vessel carved by beetle artisans. Not all seeds are sown to grow. Pluck it, the shell feels too light, wood polished smooth as a Roman senator's lie. Ancient druids held oak groves sacred, believing their roots bound earth to the underworld. Fill its void, the peddler murmurs, with breath you've saved for an apology never spoken. You exhale warm air, swirling inside the cavity, condensing against the inner walls. It glows faintly, a firefly trapped in a wooden lung. Did you know gray squirrels plant thousands of acorns yearly, then forget 90%? Their forgetfulness forests whole hillsides. The peddler's grin wrinkles his teeth like crooked headstones. Historians still quarrel whether Neolithic Britons swallowed grain seeds to honor death or just hated grocery runs. He points to your chest, specifically where ribs cage that sore hollow after bad news. Plant it there, he advises, or where you nursed a betrayal through midnight hours. Not every garden needs sun. You press the acorn to your sternum, its surface humming with trapped breath. The ground accepts your offering readily, topsoil puckering, like lips around a straw. Dirt lodges under fingernails, gritty as overcooked polenta from a Renaissance peasant's pot. The peddler crouches, knuckles brushing damp earth, rearranging worms with the tenderness of a midwife. Bury it shallow, he warns, or your heartache will sprout upside down. Rain chooses this moment to fall, fat droplets smacking the ash leaves like clumsy harp notes. The peddler stretches his neck, catching one on his tongue, claiming April showers hold more gossip than November's. A quirky truth, Napoleon insisted his hat linings be stitched with rain-stopping spells. None worked, obviously, unless Waterloo's mud counts as sabotage. You pat the soil, already sensing a faint pulse beneath, like a wrist pressed to fresh sod. It doesn't grow, but nor does it sleep. Fungus threads stitch through the acorn's cap, mycelium networks trading your stifled sighs for nitrogen. Oaks take 50 years to mature. This might need 50 breaths. The peddler stands, dusting clover fragments from patched trousers yore. His job is done, though he lingers, watching your hand linger on the disturbed earth. Before dawn, every one of Aesop's fables fit inside a walnut shell. Your acorn feels lighter now, or perhaps your palm remembers how to hold hope. Rain soaks your collar, tickling like a spirit's cold fingertip, tracing vertebrae. You half expect a sapling to burst forth, demanding tax forms or a bedtime story. Instead, silence pools around the planting site, thick as monastery honey. Historians still bicker whether the Yggdrasil myth inspired actual tree worship or just excuse for Vikings to nap outdoors. When you glance up, the peddlers melted into the ash trunk, whittled down to bark wrinkles and a lingering scent of verbena. Kneel longer until rainwater inks your jeans, until your knees imprint twin hollows in the mud. Something down there whispers, not roots, but the acorn's hollow cavity echoing your own marrow. Morning bleeds across the sky, pinking clouds that resemble half-drawn maps. Birds resume their debates in the branches overhead, a jay scolding a dove about property lines. You rise, earth crumbling from your clothes, leaving a faint fertility under your boots. No shoot breaks the surface, not yet, but something beneath tightens like a fist around a spool of thread. Walk away now, that's the trick. Let the acorn nurse on topsoil and neglected what-ifs. Next spring, where you buried nothing, might rise an emptiness shaped exactly like relief. Or maybe just a single leaf, translucent as a surgeon's glove blown against your doorstep by a wind that knows your name. Your jeans soak through, knees sinking deeper into mud, the consistency of lukewarm gruel. That buried acorn nestles just below the surface, already bargaining with earthworms for extra nitrogen. Remember the potter's cracked urn, leaking childhood summers. This feels like its melancholy cousin, a time capsule for sentiments too brittle to name. The peddler's shadow thins, bark absorbing his silhouette like blotting paper drinking ink. Storm clouds bruise the sky, yet his voice somehow cuts through the downpour static. Tend it poorly, he warns, and you'll reap a thicket of whys with no answers. Neglect it wholly, and it becomes a fossil even magpies ignore. You press a palm over the buried void, feeling neither pulse nor chill, just damp neutrality. Archaeologists once found 2,000-year-old acorns in Pompeii's ashes, still intact under volcanic crust. A museum tried sprouting them, only to get stunted twigs strangling their own roots. Rain purls on your lashes, blurring the peddler into a smudge of ragged coat and knowing smirk. His hand dips into a pocket, producing not another curio, but a walnut shell flecked with gold leaf. Inside rattles something like dried lavender, or perhaps mouse bones. For the road, he says, in case wanderlust bites before autumn. Sheltered inside is a stillness purloined from Glastonbury Abbey's sundial at high noon. Rub it between thumb and forefinger when indecision strikes. He snaps the shell shut, tucking it into your coat pocket before you protest. The fabric warms against your hip, an improvised radiator for cold feet days, a quirky custom. Edwardian postal workers carried walnuts to ward off rheumatism. Postal records show they still limed, so possibly bunk. Dawn yawns wider, striping the peddler's face with marmalade light. He steps back, heel meeting the ash tree's trunk. Wood seems to part for him, sap weeping amber droplets on his collar. Historians still dispute whether sacred groves were meeting sites or just excellent napping spots for illiterate shepherds. You want to ask, when does it sprout? What fruit grows from breath topologies? His chuckle rasps like a match striking damp stone. Some seeds, he murmurs, bloom inward, their roots not around ribs, their flowers scent dreams you'll never confess. One toe nudges your soggy boot. Mind the harvest moon, though. If that acorn hasn't split by October, dig it up and swallow it whole, preferably with honey wine, unless you fancy existential heartburn. His joke lands flat, but you smile anyway, chin dripping onto already sodden soil. The peddler fades further bark, swallowing his shoulders, his neck, the salt and pepper scruff on his jaw. Water pools in your collar, trickling down your spine like a sly finger tracing vertebrae. You rise, joints popping like desiccated seed pods. The peddler's holy tree now, just a knothole where his left eye winked. Mud slurps at your boots as you retreat, each step heavier than cobblestones from a demolished bathhouse. The acorn plot remains inert, no mound, no fissure, just rain-pocked earth. Yet when you glance back, a single mushroom caps the spot, ivory stem glowing faint as a nursed grudge. Threadbare mist gathers around your ankles, suggesting a path downhill toward regular Tuesdays and unenchanted coffee breaks. The walnut shell hums against your thigh, its borrowed quietude already muzzling the alarm bells in your temples. Halfway to the tree line, a rustle makes you turn. Not the peddler, just a jay pecking at the mushroom. It recoils, shaking its beak, as if tasting battery acid, then flees into gunmetal clouds. The ash tree stands solitary, its leaves whispering directives you can no longer parse. You touch the walnut's grooves, textured like a brain preserved in miniature. Some archaeologists claim Celtic tribes used such shells to store curses. Others insist they held recipes for excellent mead. Rain thins to drizzle, needling your face with the persistence of a telemarketer. You exhale breath unraveling as fog that clings briefly before dissolving. The tree is just a tree now, its magic boarded up like a carnival after off-season. Yet beneath your ribs, where breastbone shelters that tender hollow, something itches, not grief, not hope, but the quiet disturbance of turned soil, awaiting unnamed seeds. Sunlight finally breaches the clouds, warming the back of your neck, like a palm you almost recognize. You walk, leaving no footprints in the sodden grass, the acorn already rewriting its purpose underground. Roads home always feel shorter, though your pockets now bulge with hollow relics and borrowed calm. Mud still cakes your boots when moonlight snags on something ahead, a shop crammed between boarded-up tax offices. Its sign creaks, needles and nocturnes, stitched in thread that glows faint as foxfire. The door hangs ajar, revealing a workbench cluttered with pincushions shaped like tiny skulls. You step inside, cedar resin and bergamot oil thickening the air. Your soles leave ochre prints on birchwood floors, swept raw by broom strokes. Remember those cobblers who resoled crossroads confessors. This guy's their Stitchwitch cousin. He emerges from behind indigo curtains, a scarecrow dipped in ink. Needle-bone fingers, three-jointed and sharp, tapping a thimble forged from what looks like a molar. Medieval tailors once used bone needles, polished smooth by generations worth of hems. Historians still argue whether they preferred bovine ribs or grimly their own apprentices' clavicles. The tailor's gaze pins you, a seamstress inspecting frayed cuffs. Without a word, his scissors snip the air near your left ear. A lock of hair flutters down, seized mid-fall by thread that loops it into a floating coil. He gestures to a cloak rack where garments drip silver. One shimmers sewn from spider silk, and you blink actual moonlit cobwebs. Forgiving weave, he rasps, voice like unraveling burlap. Third on the left. You reach out, fingertips grazing fabric colder than cellar stones. Patterns shift under your touch, knots untying themselves, scars dissolving into embroidery. A quirky rumor claims Elizabethan embroiderers stitched coded treason into nobles' cloaks. Probably just jealous haberdashers gossiping. But the crown executed 7 stitchers for thread-based sedition. The tailor circles you, measuring your shadow instead of your shoulders. His needle-bone finger taps your sternum once, twice. It rings hollow, a xylophone note plucked wrong. Ah, he murmurs, fixed thread gallowglass, common among tax collectors and poets' ex-lovers. You don't ask what that means. His shears hover near your wrist, snipping an invisible string. A phantom weight lifts. That time, you lied about liking someone's terrible novel dissolving like spun sugar in tea. He throws the moonlit cloak over your shoulders. It settles lighter than a held breath, cool as apologies whispered into pillows. Your muscles unknot, shoulder blades slipping back into place like corrected typography. Historians still debate whether Roman bath cloaks were spa robes or guilt-shedding devices. The tailor grunts, flicking a needle threaded with what looks like liquid shadow. It dives into the cloak's hem, mending a tear you hadn't noticed. Free charge, he says, if you donate an old grudge to the scrap bin. You fish out that time your sister blamed you for her cactus dying. The grudge materializes, a prickly burr that sizzles in your palm. He tosses it into a jar labeled kindling for cold nights. Steam rises from a forgotten iron. Nearby, the face of your third-grade math teacher, visible in the vapors. His monocle remains perpetually steamed. 3 light jokes per 1,000 words clock it. As you adjust the hood, the tailor's reflection blurs in a tilted mirror. His shadow lacks a head, just a vacant collar, where moths flutter in and out. 18th century Parisian silk thieves reportedly had the same affliction. Side effect of swallowing diamond dust for invisibility. Spoiler, got guillotined anyway. Wear it till midnight, he warns, polishing his shears with a chamois cloth, or until your spine stops creaking like a haunted dumbwaiter. Outside, mist curls around street lamps, their light diffusing into something softer. The cloak repels drizzle, droplets sliding off like beadwork on oilskin. You catch your reflection in a puddle posture straighter, but with a translucent second shadow mimicking your walk. Behind you, the shop's lantern extinguishes with a soft phut. A key grinds in the lock, the sign flipping to gone grave robbing. Back off. The cloak hums against your neck, its inner lining speckled with constellations that map old hurts fading to freckles. A scar above your elbow, the one from your bicycle versus mailbox incident, itches briefly before dissolving into a tattoo of dandelion fluff. Rain resumes, harder now, as you turn down the alley toward home. Crushed lavender and walnut shell musk rise from the cloak's folds. Beneath it all, the cedar amber scent of a reconciliation, not yet earned, but getting there stitch by stitch. Rain drums the cloak's hood as you reach the riverbank, its black current chewing at docks rotten as bad teeth. No bridge spans this water, only a skiff drifting shoreward with no oarsman aboard. Historians love comparing such boats to Charon's ferry, but that guy charged a drachma up front. This vessel's free if you're light enough to float your own regrets. The hull gleams, not wood, but woven reeds turned stone smooth by centuries of desperate hands. Victorian grief luggers, allegedly carted mourners' keepsakes out to sea, using pebbles to sink love letters. This craft's floor stays dry, no ballast, but breath held too long. A figure materializes at the stern, hooded in fog-threaded linen. He holds no oar, just a pole carved with drowned names. Ferrymen once printed ledgers, detailing every soul's unpaid debts. Coal-smudged pages later used as tea filters. Quirkier still, some Welsh skippers demanded rhymes instead of coins. You cross at twilight's ebb, he murmurs, voice like silt settling. And only if your fists hold nothing but river mist. Your cloak drips, each droplet hitting the deck with a chime. 18th century Dutch barges sometimes smuggled tulip bulbs stitched into sailors' coats. Nowadays, it's just you and your damp socks. 3 tax season jokes per 1,000 words go. The ferry rocks, currents humming forgotten hymns beneath its keel. Starlight dapples the water, revealing shapes just beneath the surface. Not fish, but keys and wedding rings, spectral hands still clutching them tight. Louis XIV's courtiers tossed silverware into the Seine to mock paupers, never knowing those scraps would outlast Versailles. Leave what binds, says the ferryman, tapping his pole against a rusted ship's bell. Its toll vibrates your molars, rattling loose that grudge about your ex borrowing your favorite pen. It pops free, a leaden marble rolling toward the gunwale. You hesitate, watching it hover at the edge. Historians still argue whether those copper coins in olden burial sites were fares for ferrymen, or just deterrents against grave robbers. Either way, your metaphorical pockets feel emptier already. Step aboard, the reeds sigh underfoot, exhaling centuries of silt and half-sung lullabies. The ferryman's pole pushes off, ripples spreading like cracks in black glass. No shore exists ahead, just fog sculpted into archways by the breeze. He nods at your shadow, the second one gifted by the tailor. That one stays, he warns. Burdens you didn't pack still count as cargo. Rain slackens, replaced by the river's wet earth whisper. A prism dances across the water cast by the cloak's beaded hem. Luxury ferries on the Nile once sprayed rosewater to mask bilge stench. This ride smells of petrichor and peeled willow bark. Your discarded pen grudge plinks into the depths, a tiny kraken rising briefly to snatch it. Its ink squid body winks before diving. They hoard resentments like pearls, says the ferryman. Not my business what blooms from them downstream. Mid-channel, the boat slows, timbers groaning. The current here runs backward, slick with algae that glows faintly, bioluminescent diatoms, same stuff that made Roman beach waves shimmer like liquid emeralds. Science didn't name them till 1864, but superstitious sailors called them drowned witch's breath. The ferryman extends his pole, its tip skimming something beneath the surface. A face flickers in the murk, mouth moving soundlessly. You recognize your third-grade choir teacher, mouthing, "You forgot the alto line." Cruel trick, you nailed that recital. Echoes, shrugs the ferryman. They latch onto passing hulls like burrs. Ignore them or chuck more ballast. You reel in a memory, that humiliating karaoke attempt in Okinawa. Flings it overboard like hot charcoal. The water boils where it lands, then calms. Dawn bruises the horizon, peach pink seeping into gray. The ferryman's hood droops lower. Last call, he rasps. Sunrise turns this vessel back into driftwood. One final choice rests in your throat, that promise you broke to your dying terrier. The ferryman senses it, shaking his head. Don't. That grief's too dense, sinks ships. He gestures to your empty hands. Today's load's light enough. The skiff grinds onto gravel opposite shore, bristling with birch trees. Their trunks shimmer, scales flaking off to reveal new bark beneath. You step onto wet stones, turning to thank the ferryman. But the boat's already empty, its hull dissolving into a skein of river foam. Only your second shadow remains at the water's edge, waving with too many fingers as it fades. Ancient Egyptians believed shadows housed fractured souls. Modern optometrists blame uneven lighting. Your cloak dries instantly, fabric exhaling cedar resin and bergamot oil. Across the river docks, fold like stale pastry, swallowed by the current's hunger. Regret tastes bitter when released, sweet when remembered. Rare trivia, Victorian pharmacists sold river grief tonics brewed from Thames mud and brandy. A kingfisher darts past its turquoise feather drifting onto your shoulder. Pocket it, or let the breeze decide. Historians still debate whether Tudor ferrymen planted rumors of water sprites to drum up business. Either way, you're ashore now, lighter by 2 burdens, and one unnecessary altoline guilt. Damp grass squelches underfoot, leading uphill toward distant chimney smoke. The cloak's hem collects burrs their hooks, snagging nothing but morning light. Behind you, the river sighs, its secrets already forgetting your weight. You crest the hill, the chimney smoke unraveling into crows, carrying burnt toast crumbs in their beaks. Below sprawls a market square paved with mismatched sundials, noon frozen in 100 fractured shadows. Stalls hawk hourglass flasks, their sands shifting colors like mood rings. An old woman beckons her cart stacked with pocket sundials that weep honey slow onto the cobbles. They fell between sofa cushions, all those lost minutes, she croaks, stirring her wares with a compass needle. Historians tally medieval fairs where merchants traded daylight itself, charging extra for solstice hours. Her neighbor sells alarm clock snores. His glass jars bubble with miniature snorts discarded during snooze button wars. Napoleon's troops allegedly pillaged hourglasses, thinking the sand held gunpowder secrets. You consider buying back that morning. You slept through meteor showers, always wondered why constellations feel familiar. A clockmaker squints repairing cuckoos with feathers plucked from last week's procrastination. His fingers glitter with ground procrastination, quartz dust from delayed decisions. Could have sworn I reset you yesterday, he mutters to a thrashing timepiece. You pause at a stall hung with melting wax candles, each drip capturing a wasted moment. Fringe theorists claim Romans used candle clocks to time military drills, but also tea-time gossip. The wax here smells of stale birthdays and overbrewed chamomile regrets. 5 stillness coins for that rushed lunch you scarfed Tuesday, offers the vendor, a man whose beard grows slower on his left side. His scales tilt toward a lead weight shaped like a deep breath. You trade 3 minutes of silent standing, stillness pooling in your palms like mercury. In exchange, a vial of liquid twilight spills into your pocket, that stolen half-hour before your first kiss. Historians still argue whether ancient sundials measured crop cycles or just humanity's dread of dusk. A boy peddles hourglass necklaces filled with sand from procrastinated dental appointments, guaranteed to run slower during tax seasons. He whispers, polishing one with his sleeve. Tutor schoolmasters beat pupils for tardiness, but kept hypocritical laxatives in their desk drawers. You spot a stall manned by your own reflection, offering a velvet box. Inside rests the exact instant you walked past a stranger who'd later save your life. The price tag demands 40 heartbeats, not one wasted on second guesses. Midnight chimes, though the sky stays periwinkle. The vendors shutter their stalls, cramming unsold hours back into lead-lined chests. Your pocket grows heavy, the reclaimed minutes pulsing like a jellyfish sting. You step away, the sundials beneath your feet resetting to now, whatever now means here. The cobbled path leads you uphill, your pocket still throbbing with captured minutes. Stone cottages hang crooked their roofs, dripping rust-colored moss onto walls studded with clay shards. Each fragment glows faintly, like embers trapped in a blacksmith's forge. A potter bends over his wheel, kneading gray clay that squeaks like mice underfoot. Behind him, rows of urns crackle softly, their fractures pulsing amber light. One vessel sits apart, a spiderweb of flaws sprawling across its belly. Historians note ancient Egyptians pioneered faience pottery, recipes lost like desert mirages. Cradle it cold, it'll burn through your doubts. The potter rasps, wiping cobalt glaze onto his apron. His fingertips bear shiny scars, sealed over blisters from handling steaming memories. This one wept while I shaped it, tried to crawl right off the wheel. You lean closer. The urn's fissures thrum, casting buttery warmth onto your cheeks. Its clay feels strangely alive, like holding a sun-warmed beehive. Victorian spiritualists swore ceramics absorbed final thoughts. Hence, death masks, clutching whispered secrets. The largest crack splits wide, spilling molten gold that doesn't scorch. Filled to the brim with summers, the potter chuckles, stirring his glaze bucket. 3rd century Celadon artists deliberately cracked vessels during firing, some say to release trapped spirits. Historians still argue whether the flaw patterns conveyed secret messages or just faulty kilns. You press a palm to the urn's belly. Heat twines up your wrist, carrying the scent of melted crayons and bicycle grease. Your thumb sinks into a glowing seam. Suddenly, you're 7 summers old barefoot on asphalt bubbling under noon. Lemonade stand, coins sticky in your pocket, cicadas sawing through the humid air. A red balloon escapes your grip, drifting past maple leaves greener than jealousy. You chase it, lungs burning, until it vanishes into the indifferent blue. The memory snaps like twine. The urn's glow dulls, its surface now a map of dried lava flows. Souvenirs fit heavy A. The potter extends a chisel. Take a shard or leave the whole ache behind. You hesitate. That balloon's vanishing felt sharper than yesterday's lunch. Clay poultices once treated battlefield wounds, Roman legionaries, packing mud into gashes when medics fled. This glow promises salve, but might rewarm old regrets. Mind the edge, he warns, as the urn sighs its cracks deepening into greedy gulfs. Some pay extra for the fractures, lets the light leak prettier. A joke wobbles in his tone, like trying to balance an overfilled teacup. Your stolen minutes pulse hotter, that vial of twilight humming in unison with the fissures. You picture planting this shard beside the hollow acorn, both buried under heart soil. Would they sprout forgiveness, or just ghosts of sidewalk chalk? The potter shrugs, plucking a blue glaze hair from his sleeve. Everyone's a pottery expert, right, until their favorite plate shatters. Midday light slants through the workshop window, catching motes of kale and dust, dancing like conflicted thoughts. The largest urn fragment winks waiting. The urn shard warms your palm, glowing softer than forge coals now. Dust swirls ahead, etched by slanted light into hesitant shapes. It thickens, forming arched double doors, tall as loneliness. Their oak planks bear no handles, only keyholes shaped like teardrops. You press the shard against the left keyhole. A click echoes, too loud for such a slender gap. The doors groan inward, revealing aisles choked with scroll tubes, stacked haphazard as drunk promises. Faint sobs rise from far corners, barely louder than moth wings brushing wool. A figure glides between shelves, wiping cobwebs from her sleeves. Her gloves shimmer pale blue, the exact shade of Arctic ice under winter twilight. "Mind your step," she mutters, not glancing up from her feather duster. 1,347s. Stack leans eager today. Heartbreak weakens parchment glue. You brush a hanging scroll. Its surface prickles, like touching storm clouds about to weep. Text shimmers, then fades, as your shadow grazes it. Medieval scribes cataloged noblemen's dreams, their quill-scratched visions, now food for silverfish. Patience, the archivist sighs, adjusting her pince-nez. Dreams hate haste worse than sunlight. She taps a tube capped with tarnished brass. This one dreamed of winged cats pulling chariots, signed Richard II. Historians still argue whether his scribes exaggerated, or he just sampled too much clove wine. Your fingertip finds another scroll, this one sealed with wax the color of dried blood. It hums, vibrating softly as a snared cicada. 18th century Dutch sleep influencers sold dream recipes, lavender and lead powder baked into questionable biscuits. The archivist snorts, plucking the scroll from your grasp. "Ah, nosy one, aren't you? Handle like this." She unrolls it centimeter by trembling centimeter. Ink bleeds upward, forming words that squirm like eels in oil. Personal favorite, a miller's wife who dreamed upside down, claimed her tears floated upward, drowning the moon. Laughter escapes you hoarse as a rusted hinge. The nearest scroll tube rattles its wax seal, cracking like knuckle bones. Mist leaks out, smelling of candle smoke and spoiled citrus. Hush now, her duster swats your shoulder, lighter than a dandelion wish. The sensitive ones sulk for weeks if mocked. She gestures toward a reading stand, its surface scarred with lingering stains. Choose carefully. Unread dreams wither faster than cut lilacs. You lift a slender scroll tied with hair gray streaked gold. Its parchment feels like cobwebs dipped in honey. As you unknot the strand, anxiety flutter kicks your ribs. Cleopatra reportedly sent dream scrolls to Caesar, scented with jasmine and political ambition. Did she truly? Truth melts here faster than candy floss in rain. The archivist peers over your shoulder. That one belonged to a lamplighter's daughter. Dreamt of shadows teaching her to waltz. Her glove brushes the edge, the ink brightening briefly. She wrote it down, then burned her only shoes next morning. Words rise from the page, not in lines, but spirals. They coil around your wrists, chilly as creek water in March. Your pulse slows, drumming a funeral march for lost fancies. Victorian seamstresses often stitched dream symbols into lingerie, hidden cupids, and storm clouds camouflaged as lace. The spiral tightens, cold seeps through your sleeves. Suddenly you're ankle deep in tide pools under a greenish sky. Someone grips your hand, their fingers scaled like a leatherback turtle. Shell pieces gleam on wet sand, arranged into crumbling equations. The waves whisper secrets in whalebone flutes, each note dissolving as you grasp it. All gone morning-wise, murmurs the archivist, rolling up the scroll. Its parchment now bears a water stain shaped like Italy, barely lasted 3 breaths, thin stuff. She tucks it into a cubby labeled half-remembered / amphibious yearnings. Your knuckles brush another tube, this one crusted with salt crystals. Inside, a captain's final dream before shipwreck, his ink blurred by Atlantic spray. Historians debate whether doomed sailors truly saw mermaids, or just oxygen-starved minds painting hope on waves. Take one if it sings to you. The archivist polishes her pince-nez on her sleeve. But know this, unforgotten dreams sprout thorns in daylight. Her gesture sweeps the archive, countless shelves vanishing into gloom. Most stay safer here, sleeping. You weigh the salt-crusted tube. It vibrates, a submarine humming. Industrial Revolution factory. Workers reportedly napped clutching dream stones, quartz spheres meant to trap pleasant visions, useless mostly, but comforting as a pocket-held maybe. Wind howls outside, or is it the scrolls themselves sighing? The archivist freezes, head cocked like a hare-sensing hawk's. Quickly now, that's the midnight gale. She nudges you toward the exit. It peels memories off shelves like old wallpaper. You clutch the captain's scroll, its brine scent tinged with kelp rot. Laughter echoes down the aisle, high and unhinged as a broken music box. The archivist rolls her eyes skyward. Here comes 1789 section, always rowdy after nibbling revolution dreams. The doors slam shut behind you, severing the noise. Only the scroll remains, damp in your fist. Faint singing leaks from its cap, a shanty half remembered by the drowned. Pebbles crunch underfoot. Dawn hangs hesitant, a gray veil over the hills. That hollow acorn weighs heavy in your pocket, hungry for planting. But first, the final choice beneath the ash trees whisper. The gate looms ahead, black stones fitted tight as clenched teeth. No ivy softens its edges, no hinges rust with comforting neglect. 14 generations passed since its construction, built by laborers who mixed mortar with their own spit. Roman sentries once guarded dream gates, their helmets lined with lamb's wool to mute phantom whispers. A figure stands before the archway, still as a keyhole, awaiting its blade. Her hood hangs deep, swallowing shadows where eyes might float. Close enough, she rasps, knuckles white around an iron key longer than your forearm. My sight lives in here. She taps her temple, with the key's teeth, not out there. Night air thickens, pressed into your lungs like folded linen. You clutch the hollow acorn, its woody shell warmer than flesh. Across cultures, gatekeepers demanded tribute coins for Karen honey cakes, for Mesopotamian underworld guards. She tilts her head as if listening to your bloodstream's rhythm. Stated plain, no honeyed words. Her key trembles, pointing toward your collarbone. Not what you carry, but what you hope waits beyond. The metal whines, a dog leashed too tight. Historians still debate whether Babylon's Ishtar Gate truly held sapphire tiles, or if chroniclers mistook lapis lazuli under desert sun. You inhaled dust and desire. You came to plant a maybe, to see if grief could grow something lighter than ache. The gatekeeper smiles, lips thin as parchment folds. Ah, yes. Her key swings downward, striking the flagstones. Sparks skitter like panicked beetles. The gate's center melts, stone flowing like heated wax. An opening appears its edges, shimmering like a mirage. Walk quick, molten rock remembers coldness. She steps aside, hood rippling in a wind you cannot feel. Some claim the blind perceive magnetic fields, navigating by polar whispers in their marrow. Beyond the gate, a garden breathes. Silver grass bends beneath no breeze. Trees hold fruit translucent as blown glass. The peddler's ash seed pulses in your grip, a second heartbeat nested inside muscle and bone. The gatekeeper's key drips, molten iron hissing where it hits stone. Few pass carrying this weight. Her voice grates flint on flint. Most try smuggling hope, simmered down to syrup. She laughs, a dry cough rattling loose from her ribs. Fools forget, undiluted desire scorches pipelines. You glance back at the archives, distant glow, swallowed by hills. And you ask, towing the threshold where dark grass begins. I guard. She shrugs, hood swaying like an empty bell. Eternity's boring work, but someone must sort the earnest from the hungry. Her key cools suddenly, frost blooming across its teeth. Now choose step or stay. Twilight won't linger for dawdlers. You cross, and the gate seals behind you with a sound like a closing ledger. Soil sighs underfoot, exhaling scents of bergamot and burnt sugar. Ahead, a single tree stands leafless under fall stars. The peddler swore his gift wanted planting here, where shadows pool thickest. You kneel, fingers digging into earth, as soft as powdered ink. An acorn drops into the hollow, nestling deep as a secret. Soil rises to cover it, no burial, but welcome. Roots squirm against your palm, seeking purchase in the dark. Above, constellations blink in unfamiliar patterns. No bear, no hunter, just shapes that defy naming. One cluster resembles a teapot, another a half-unraveled braid. Victorian astronomers catalogued ghost stars, lights seen once, then vanished from sky charts. Whether tricks of fog or true stellar deaths, no telescope ever confirmed them. Something rustles the grass behind you. A beetle climbs your sleeve, its carapace gleaming like polished obsidian. It pauses at your elbow and Tenny tasting moonlight. Don't mind him, murmurs a voice like creaking wicker. He checks all newcomers for unresolved grudges. You freeze, the beetle's legs prickling through fabric. A woman emerges from the tree's shadow, her apron sewn from dried rose petals. She crouches eye level with the buried acorn. Good spot. She nods, petals crackling softly, soils rich with abandoned might-have-beens. The beetle flies off, wings humming a tune nearly melodic. Distant chimes echo, though no buildings break the horizon. I tend what takes root here, the gardener says, brushing dirt from her knees. Some sprout quick, others need centuries to crack their shells. Her finger traces where the acorn hides. This one feels thirsty. Wind stirs, carrying voices too faint to parse. The gardener tilts her head, listening. Gatekeepers scolding another visitor, always drama at closing hour. She winks, though her eyes hold no pupils, just deepening black. Better you came when you did. She's allergic to sincerity after midnight. You press soil over the acorn, patting it smooth. Will it grow? The gardener stands, petals shedding from her hem. They always do, given enough rain and reckless hope. She plucks a silver blade of grass, twisting it into a knot. Some become shelters, others become cages. Depends what minerals your heart's leaking into the dirt. Her knot holds, a perfect circle shining between her palms. She offers it cool grass, brushing your wrist. For the road back, she says, gates swing easier when you carry proof you tried. Stars pulse overhead, slow as a resting pulse. The gardener fades her form, dissolving into dandelion fluff, caught in an updraft. The grass knot rests in your palm, weightless yet anchored. Behind the gate groans open, a sliver of reality peeking through. The gatekeeper's silhouette blocks most of the archway, key raised like a question mark. Finished gardening, she calls, voice stripped of its earlier gravel. Sun's itching to rise, and mortals shouldn't witness that here. You pocket the grass ring, its edges softer than promises. One step back through the gate, and the garden vanishes, sealed behind stone and centuries, and stubborn wanting. Dawn bleeds gold across the hills, the ash tree ahead, sighing in recognition. The peddler sits beneath it, patching his coat with spider silk. He glances up, needle freezing mid-stitch. Planted it then, he asks, thread gleaming like captured starlight. You nod, the grass ring a secret against your thigh. Splendid. His needle dives back into fabric. Now let's see what shade it casts when the world leans heavy. He pats the roots beside him, inviting you to wait out the sunrise. Somewhere buried deep in impossible soil, an acorn dreams of becoming sanctuary. Somewhere, a gatekeeper listens for the next unspoken wish. Somewhere your own breath steadies, syncopated with the roots below. The peddler whistles a tune that hums inside your teeth, and the ash leaves shiver their approval. The peddler's coat rustles, spider silk stitches, catching stray sunbeams. He nods toward a path veiled in hanging moss. Storms coming brew weather, he murmurs, tying off a thread with teeth yellowed as old piano keys. You crush dry leaves underfoot, each step releasing scents of ginger and low tide. A hut squats ahead, walls cobbled from blackened bricks and sailor's knotwork. Steam curls through its chimney, coiling like a charmed serpent. Remember those Ming Dynasty tea caddies sealed with wax to preserve freshness. This chimney exhales something sharper, regrets vaporized into vapor. A man ducks through the doorway, apron smudged with soot and star-shaped scars. His kettle hangs squat over flames, its surface etched with weeping faces. Footsore traveler, he calls, stirring the brew with a femur polished smooth. Don't dawdle, shadows congeal fast at noon. Inside, shelves sag under jars, labeled in melted wax. One holds size captured in glass, another pulses with burgundy light. You've heard of Tibetan skull cups, but his ladle's carved from a walnut that refused to sprout. Sit, he kicks a stool toward you, chairs made from a gallows plank, comfortable if your conscience is light. The joke lands like a dropped spoon, clattering, but harmless. Steam licks your face, carrying notes of burnt honey and sealed tombs. He pours a cup, liquid swirling blacker than India ink. Real tea bricks once fueled empires, traded alongside silk and gunpowder. This brew smokes faintly violet, catching the light like an oil slick. First sips complimentary. He slides the cup across the table, its surface reflecting no face. Tastes like whatever truth you've stuffed deepest. Historians still argue whether Victorian laudanum addicts truly saw blue devils or just needed better pharmacists. The liquid warms your palms through the clay. You hesitate, eyeing the shifting steam. Another carburetor of regrets, he sighs, scratching his neck with the ladle handle. Breathe it slow, liver's not built for undiluted honesty. Leather creaks as he leans closer. I once served a queen who swallowed kingdoms. Her tea tasted of wet nurse's milk. The first taste hits cold as glacier melt, then blooms into spiced pear. Ghostly fingers pluck at your sternum, unraveling a knot you named, that winter with the broken doorknob. Memories surface, not as visions, but textures, Angora wool against fingertips, rain hitting a zinc roof. Good, the brewer watches, squinting through the steam. You exhale, air sweetened with unresolved apologies. Some scholars claim Cleopatra dissolved pearls in vinegar, proof that showmanship beats practicality every time. Recent scrolls suggest it was calcium tablets, a publicity stunt for her osteoporosis. But who ruins a legend with facts? He tops up your cup, liquid thick as motor oil now, second pours cheaper than therapy. His laugh rattles jars, making their contents shrink from the glass. Confession, I spiked this batch with moonlight harvested during the 1348 plague. Why? Words feel sticky, clotted with raw syrup. Distillation requires contrast, like how Venetian glassmakers added lead for shine. He taps his kettle, weeping faces, contorting. You can't brew absolution without weeping into the pot. Shadows thicken, clinging to corners like wet tissue paper. A jar marked Unsent Valentines fogs up, its trapped humidity writing cursive on the glass. Your spine tingles, alcohol-cut memories bleeding into saliva. That 7th birthday party, the one where rain drowned the cake, swims up unbidden. 3rd sip. He tilts the ladle, drops falling slow as congealing blood. Fair warning, it dissolves the sugar coating on old lies. You shake your head, pushing the cup away. It sears a ring into the wood, the scent of scorched vanilla rising, awe barely past first layer truths. He drains your dregs, throat bobbing, as he swallows epics of stranger sorrows. Child's play, I once sipped a philosopher king's tonic. Wiping his mouth, he nods at the door. When you're ready for the bitter cuts, my fire never sleeps. Outside, rain peppers the mossy roof, each drop hissing where it hits the kettle's flank. The brewer hums, a dirge your marrow recognizes, but can't name. You step into humid air, tongue still buzzing with borrowed nostalgia. The path back swims with half-formed shapes, echoes of what you steeped, what you left unsipped. Under the ash tree, the peddler snores softly, needle dangling from limp fingers. A single acorn sprouts near his boot, its leaves translucent as jellyfish skin. You settle against the trunk, watching storm clouds swallow the horizon, your pulse synced to the distant clank of a ladle against bronze. The peddler's snores hitch, then stop mid-breath. One eye cracks open amber as aged whiskey. He plucks the sprouting acorn roots dangling like loose violin strings and tucks it behind your ear with a grunt. Compost for courage, he rasps, digging in his coat's labyrinthine pockets. Something thuds onto the moss between you, a compass encrusted with barnacles and tarnished chain links. Its glass face is cracked, the needle beneath shivers like a cornered spider. Historians credit Han Dynasty sailors with inventing lodestone compasses. But this relic smells of older things, warmer seas, soaked through with brine. Found this tucked in a narwhal's ribcage. The peddler taps the brass edge, making the needle spin wild. True north is for accountants and avalanche rescuers. This little trader points where all went to die. The needle spasms, then stills, aiming at your shoelaces. You lift the compass, heavier than its size suggests, cold leaching into your palm like melted glacier. Medieval sailors swore oysters clutched in fists could guide them home, proof desperation, birth's strange science. This device whispers against your skin, its tremor syncing with your pulse. Is it broken? Broken, ha! The peddler spits, a wad of phlegm sizzling on a sun-baked stone. That needle's more honest than your childhood diary. Follow it, but ditch logic like last week's lottery ticket. A gust ripples the ash leaves overhead, drizzling dried seeds into your collar. The needle lurches right toward the brewer's hut, now obscured by fog. You stand knees popping like soggy timber and let the compass drag you forward. Pebbles shift underfoot, each one clicking like a bone dice landing wrong. 10 paces in, the needle jerks sideways, hissing as it scrapes the cracked glass. You swerve toward a thicket choked with chokeberries, their juice staining your sleeve purple as a priest's Lenten stole. Brambles snag your ankles, whispering nasty limericks about lost explorers. The peddler's chuckle fades behind you, replaced by the wheeze of your own breath. A ditch yawns ahead, its muddy banks slick with recent rain. The needle points straight down, oblivious to physics. Really, you glare at the compass, now humming a flat, off-key note. Historians still argue whether ancient seafarers used compasses for navigation, or just threw them overboard to appease squall gods. You kneel, digging fingers into loam dark as baker's chocolate. 3 knuckles deep, your nail strikes something smooth, wider than a dinner plate. You heave it up, a fossilized giant tortoise shell, crusted with quartz veins. The compass needle vibrates wildly, glowing faintly like a glowworm's backside. Experts think Vikings used turtle shells as makeshift sleds, but this relic smells of jasmine and reptile sweat. The shell's hollow cradles a silt-filled depression. You press your palm flat, cold spreading up your wrist like IV drip truth serum. Images flicker, not visions, but phantom sensations, scales against thigh, salt crusting lips, the ache of carrying an entire ecosystem on your spine. The compass needle calms, now aiming northeast. You clamber from the ditch, hips muddy, holding the tortoise shell like a pizza tray. 3 crows perched on a lightning-struck oak jeer at you, their caws syncopated like drunk jazz percussionists. The compass leads you up a shale slope, each sliding step threatening to spill you backward. At the summit, wind whips your hair into Medusa snakes. The needle steadies, pointing at a rock cairn draped in wind-bitten prayer flags. 37 stones. You count them, each one marked with a faded rune. 1 pebble smaller than a pistachio nestles at the base. You squint, recognizing the peddler's chipped thumbnail crescent carved into its face. Show off, you mutter, pocketing the pebble. The compass shudders, needle flipping 180 degrees back toward the ash tree, now a smudge on the horizon. Seriously, dusk bleeds across the sky, bruising clouds purple where they scrape the hilltops. Your stomach growls, an angry badger trapped behind ribs. The compass needle trembles, suddenly indecisive, spinning lazy circles like a ballerina. After 3 tequila shots, you slump against the cairn, peeling a wilted protein bar from your pocket. Chocolate tastes like roofing tar, but you chew anyway. The final bite sticks in your throat, memories flooding in, not yours. A woman's hands stitching sails by lantern light, the tang of fierce sweat blending with seaweed. The tortoise shell warms against your calf, purging mud through its cracks like a colander. Moonrise finds you trudging downhill, compass dangling useless from your fist. Frogs chorus in a pond ahead, their croaks syncopated with the buzz in your temples. The needle gives 1 half-hearted twitch toward the water, then freezes dead. You chuck the compass. It arcs, plunging into duckweed with a sullen plorp, but the tortoise shell vibrates against your leg. Softly now, a cat purring in deep sleep. You wade shin-deep into the pond, muck squeezing between toes, and set the shell afloat. It spins slow, then drifts west, tracing a path only ancient currents know. Your socks squelch inside your boots as you follow, water soaking past your knees. Faint bioluminescence ignites where algae blooms brush your shins, neon green constellations swirling in your wake. The pond deepens, your arms paddle now, shell bobbing ahead like a buoy on ghost tides. Mid-pond, a square shadow looms beneath the surface, flat stones piled into a submerged archway. Your fingers trace algae-slick edges, silt swirling where you disturb quiet centuries. The shell bumps against the structure, sinking, sudden nestling between two foundation stones. Blue light pulses once bright as a camera flash, then dies. You dive, eyelids clamped tight, groping in the murk for the shell. Stone scrapes knuckles, then something colder metal links. Your lungs burn as you grab, surfacing with a gasp, clutching the compass again, chain tangled in drowning lily roots. On shore, you collapse, coughing up pond scum and existential questions. The compass steams in moonlight, needle pointing stubbornly at your heart. Thunder rumbles, close enough to taste ozone on your tongue. The peddler's voice drifts from somewhere beyond the reeds, amused as a chess champ spotting a blunder. Lost your religion yet? You flip him off without looking, fumbling the tortoise shell with your free hand. A hairline fracture now splits its dome, oozing liquid starlight that evaporates upon contact with air. The shell hums, barely audible, a tuning fork struck on the edge of reality. Keep both. The peddler tosses the acorn sprout at your feet. Its jellyfish leaves now tinged with pond algae green. Every wonder seeker needs mismatched tools. You cram the compass, shell, and sprout into your pack, straps groaning under their combined stubbornness. The path home glimmers, damp stones reflecting constellations not recorded on any astronomer's charts. Each step squishes, waterlogged boots mimicking duck mating calls. Under the ash tree, the brewer's kettle clangs faintly in the dark, a distant, grudging metronome. You press your palm to the trunk, feeling a slow heartbeat beneath its bark, steady as a tortoise crossing an endless desert. The pack thrums against your spine, precious junk, resonating with secret frequencies. Rain begins gentle at first, kissing mud from your cheeks. The peddler drapes a moth-riddled blanket over your shoulders. Sleep, he orders, pointing at the compost pile with its sprouting tea leaves and guilt-fertilized ferns. Tomorrow, you'll wish you had. You curl up, shins aching forehead, pressed to the tortoise shell's curved spine. Its vibration lulls you, a lullaby hummed in a tongue erased by flood or fire, while the compass needle digs into your kidney, a persistent nudge toward future sunlit. Somewhere a frog croaks once, then silence spreads its wings over the drowned. Rainwater drips off your nose, pattering onto the tortoise shell, still cradled in your lap. Dawnlight slants through the ash leaves, warming the peddler's snores into gravelly purrs. You stretch back, popping like a champagne cork, and freeze. Where compost should sprawl, stone arches loom, ivy-choking pillars carved with staring eyes. Shelves yawn inside, stuffed with books bound in leather suede, and what looks suspiciously like human eyelid skin. You shuffle closer, boots sinking into moss thick as grandmother's sponge cake. A plaque dangles crookedly, library of unread gazes, no returns after sundown. The air smells of dried ink and abandoned theater seats. Push the creaking door, its hinges groaning like arthritic knees. Dust motes swirl, lazy disco balls, revealing miles of leaning shelves. Each book's spine shimmers, faintly titles etched by longing rather than quills. How she looked when the train doors closed glows on one, a cover textured like smudged mascara. The last glance at Dad's hospital door pulses beside it, its pages visibly damp at the edges. Scholars praise Alexandria's library for amassing scrolls. But this place stockpiles stares, those half seconds never resolved. You brush fingertips over 3 heartbeats of eye contact. In elevator 7, it trembles, releasing a sigh scented with coffee and parking garage exhaust. You mutter, eyeing a shelf labeled edible dictionaries. Swallow your words. A footnote claims 9th century nuns once baked psalms into communion wafers. Proof carbs make confession easier. Skeptical, you break off a corner of Napoleon's love letters. It tastes like burnt croissant and bad decisions. Pick a slender volume. We locked eyes for 0. 8 seconds. Then the dog barked. Its binding feels like starched shirt fabric. Crack it open. A man stares back from the page, his irises shimmering with lost questions. Pupils widen, framing your reflection in his drowned gaze. Historians still argue whether Roman librarians categorized scrolls alphabetically or by which emperors banned them. This book emits heat like a phone left on too long. His lips move in the margins, mouthing words with no soundtrack. Apples, he's definitely saying apples, or possibly apologies. The smell of gasoline blooms suddenly, your throat tightening. He's mouthing, help me. Snap the book shut barely. It wriggles, begging like a puppy denied walkies. Sweat slicks your palms as you shove it back between. Handyman glanced twice. Electrician never looked up. And the barista remembered my name once. Shelves creak, spines rotating on their own to track your retreat. A leather-bound tome titled Why You Never Turned Around at the Airport thuds to the floor. Pages flapping like wounded geese. Step over it, fast, beelining toward daylight. Each book sings now, hums merging into a choir of might-have-beens. You're sprinting, jowls flapping, past books, oozing brine from submarine farewells, spilling ash from funerals where eyes met too long. The exit shrinks, a distant postage stamp of gray. A hand grabs your elbow, ice-cold nails sharp as paper cuts. Turn, find no body attached, just an arm sleeved in librarian's wool, pulling you toward something called dialogues, unspoken, beneath stadium bleachers. Hard pass, you wheeze, stomping the spectral forearm, with a satisfying crunch. Brittle bone fragments scatter, etching tiny cursive curses into the floorboards. Burst outside, gulping air like a beached trout. The library groans, its entrance folding inward like a camera lens, retracting. 4 heartbeats later, only the compost mound remains, steaming gently in the new sun. The peddler scratches his armpit, not glancing up from whittling a spoon from acorn wood. Find the self-help section. You flip him off, still trembling, as a laugh bubbles up like indigestion. Rainwater drips down your neck, a baptism from soggy socks to sodden scalp. Somewhere deep in the compost, a bookbinding fungus blooms crimson, feasting on glances you forgot to hold longer. Your soggy boots squelch protest as the peddler nudges you toward a crooked shack, its roof shingled with mismatched shoe soles. He'll fix those blisters, he grunts, or haunt your arches forever. Win-win. Inside smells of beeswax and stubbornness. Glass jars line sagging shelves, each holding liquid shadow that swirls when you pass. The cobbler hunches over his bench, fingers wrapped in bandages made from ledger pages. One glance at your boots, he snorts. Ah, the indecisive tread. Turned back 3 times, yes. You nod, remembering aborted hikes, missed buses, that wedding invitation abandoned in a mailbox. His needle flashes, thread pulled not from spools, but tangled strands of dusk light. Roman cobblers supposedly hammered nails in patterns to ward off street ghosts. But this man stitches regret straight into the leather. Try these. He tosses you boots buttersoft as forgiven lies. Slide them on, suddenly standing on a rainy Paris sidewalk 3 years ago, watching your ex-lover's taxi vanish round the corner. The left boot whispers, you could still chase her. Historians still argue whether senators wore red sandals to hide battle wounds or spilled wine stains. You stagger, slamming into a shelf. A pair of Victorian shoes of the departed clatters down toes, still crammed with funeral lilies. Careful, the cobbler warns. Those make you walk backward through mourners' tears. His awl scrapes ancient resin from a lump that might be a troll's kneecap. Your new soles grow warm, mapping every U-turn you ever took. Blisters bloom, then vanish like embarrassed speech bubbles. The leather remembers. The cobbler murmurs, tracing a scar where 2 paths diverged in some stranger's past. Scuff marks make better souvenirs than postcards. Near the door, child-sized clogs nailed to the wall begin weeping maple syrup. Ignore them, he shrugs, left by a girl who refused to outgrow her fairy tales. Outside, the ash tree shakes loose a single leaf that lands perfectly atop your left boot, stitching itself into the laces. Rain taps Morse code on the roof as you exit each step, now whispering road not taken gossip against the mud. Rain still slicks the cobbles as a hunched figure waves you toward a workshop wedged between crumbling townhouses, its doorframe warped like a frown. Inside smells of wet slate and the static buzz before lightning strikes. You recognize his trade by the left hand, calluses thick as oyster shells, and the right smooth like river-polished glass. Ah, a dabbler in barricades, the mason rasps. His trowel scrapes mortar from a bowl carved from a meteorite chunk. Gritty paste, flecked with what might be powdered amethyst. He points to an apparently blank wall, yet your palm tingles centimeters from its surface, like holding it over a struck gong. Won this beauty in a drinking contest with a Carthaginian siege engineer, not bragging, just facts. You blink. Historians still argue whether the gaps in the Great Wall were strategic weak points or intentional, letting nomadic winds pass through unimpeded. The mason scoffs, dragging his trowel through the air, leaving a shimmering trail that solidifies into sheer curtain. Invisible masonry isn't about sight, it's about weight. He taps your sternum hard enough to bruise and refuse. His workshop brims with unseen boundaries, disembodied hammers clinking against phantom bricks. Shelves sag under cloudy jars, labeled in languages that itch behind your eyes. One reads unsent, love, letter, mortar mix. Do not taste. A lazy tomcat naps midair, curled atop something that isn't there. He's guarding my 14th failed marriage. The mason shrugs. Good lad. He presses a brick cooler than winter into your hands, its surface impossibly smooth, standard emotional barricade material. He mutters, absorbs 12 screaming matches, 3 silent treatments, and 1 lyre-accompanied apology before crumbling. Light bends around it, exposing fossilized gossip trapped inside. A scandal involving a Byzantine nun's smuggled silk socks. Your turn, he gestures toward a section of floor that hums like a beehive. Build a new wall or unmake an old one, but hurry. Mortar dries faster than forgiveness. Warned you, some stones whisper when stroked, urging you toward a childhood humiliation you boxed up decades ago. Others reflect back grotesque versions of your face, jaw slack, eyes hollow, a funhouse mirror of self-loathing. Teutonic knights supposedly built ice walls that melted into moats. But this man's craft leaves no puddles, just phantom chills in your molars. You chip at a section humming. They never loved you. The trowel shuddering as lemon-bitter vapor escapes. That's new, your therapist never mentioned tear gas trauma residue. Outside, children lob mud clods at nothing, squealing when they stick midair. Ignore them, the mason grunts. Testing boundaries is healthy until someone loses a spleen. He drags the meteorite trowel across your palm. No blood, just a white scar shaped like a keyhole. For next time, he winks. Bargain entry or emergency, escape your choice. Rain resumes its hiss as you step back into the night, cradling an invisible stone that feels lighter than breath, yet pulls your gait sideways. Somewhere behind you, glass shatters softly, the sound of one more wall, outliving its purpose. The night air feels bruised purple, now ripe, with the tang of upturned soil. Ahead, a makeshift observatory, cobbled from salvaged ship timbers, leans hard against a gnarled hawthorn, its lens aimed not skyward, but down, where roots wriggle blind. She stands ankle-deep in fresh diggings, her robe hemmed with mud spectacles smudged by fingerprint constellations. You note her hands, right ink-stained violet from quill work, left chalk-white from clutching measuring rods. Charted 17 descent paths tonight, she murmurs, not glancing up. Mars disappeared under Sicily's crust in 416 BCE. Or was it Sardinia? Memory slides. You stoop, plucking a pebble from the freshly turned earth. It throbs faintly, a heat like remembered fever. Historians still argue whether Hipparchus's lost star catalogue burned with Alexandria or moulders intact beneath some goat pasture. The astronomer sniffs, kicking aside a clod with her boot. Ash makes terrible preservative. Trust me, I've licked enough scroll fragments to know. Her work table lies strewn with upside-down maps, cities labeled by their subterranean counterparts. Constantinople shimmers under Turkey's dirt, a mirrored metropolis of collapsed observatories, and wine cellars full of abandoned theories. Don't step there, she barks, as your foot nears a depression. Collapsed Roman sewage tank. Last week, I found 5 imperial cooking spoons and a senator's shame. She offers a spyglass crusted with loam, its brass still dented from some long-ago trowel strike. Pressing it to your eye reveals veins of smothered light threading the soil, some no thicker than thread, others bright as buried rivers. Persian astrologers dipped their quills in starlight-absorbing fungus ink. She whispers, their charts still pulse 8 feet under Isfahan's bazaar. One chart glows between you parchment stained by wine dregs, and what smells suspiciously like tears. It depicts the Mediterranean bowl not as sea, but as a scooped-out grave for celestial debris. See this dent? She stabs Sicily with a charcoal stick. Home to a diamond the size of a war galley's anchor allegedly fell during Nero's fiddle solo. You squint, half expecting jokes, but her expression stays flinty. Cleopatra, it's recorded, slept with polished meteorite fragments under her pillow to ward off bad dreams. Did it work? Her suicide note, if real, was written in vinegar, not ink. Burying stars is humankind's oldest hobby, the astronomer sighs, second only to digging them up for bragging rights. A debate tickles your tongue, modern eyes versus ancient skies, who mapped truer. She silences you with a raised palm calloused from gripping shovels. They used sound, we use lasers. Same arrogance, different toys. From her satchel, she unfurls a map thinner than onion skin, its edges frayed by impatient rodents. Your copy, she says, tapping coordinates over what appears to be your hometown. X marks where Cassiopeia's elbow plunged into a Welsh peat bog circa 1203. Or maybe her kneecap. Topography shifts. Blame continental drift. You fold it carefully, aware of its impossible weightlessness. Nearby, 3 teens giggle, heaving a sofa-sized chunk of concrete into a ravine. A 1994 Moscow subway station bench sinking into oblivion. Kids, she mutters, always interring the wrong relics. Dawn's first bruise yellows the horizon. She presses a compass into your hand, its needle spinning wild as a dervish with vertigo. Doesn't point north, just where wonder curdled for you personally. Useful, if depressing. As you turn, she's already digging again, her boot heels flashing like twin eclipses against the brightening dirt, shovel ringing against something glassy and resentful, a long-buried protest against being forgotten. The hollow acorn in your pocket grows warm, patient as plotted stars. The eastern sky pales, washing the buried lights from view. Your map, now just crumpled fiber, daubed with hopeful lies. A butcher's delivery, van rattles past, radio blaring yesterday's lottery numbers, its tires spraying gravel over the astronomer's latest dig site. She doesn't look up. Somewhere under that fresh layer of asphalt and indifference, an Egyptian king's favorite star winks once, then resumes its 10,000-year nap. The eastern sky bleeds honey gold now, diluting the buried constellations beneath your boots. You retrace the cobbled path, past the market stalls, shuddering their stolen minute counters, past the ferryman dozing in his empty crescent boat. Around the final bend, the ash tree stretches its branch-veined fingers, the peddler leaning against bark worn smooth. He doesn't turn as you approach, busy fiddling with a pouch woven from what looks like discarded spiderwebs. Dawn catches the threads, turning them into liquid silver. You've tasted the bread of beginnings, heard nightingales wound tight with regret. He murmurs, now the weary world needs one last seed. One hand extends toward you, palm up, cradling an acorn. Not the plump kind squirrels wage wars over, no. This one's hollow, light as a dried sigh, its cap fastened with a twisted thread of lichen. You half expect a fairy to crawl out, blinking and disgruntled, planted where your heart drags anchors. He instructs, rolling the acorn between thumb and forefinger. Celtic druids, you recall, carried acorns to predict the future. They tossed them into sacred springs, read fate in how they sank, though druids never specified, I suspect, if you should boil them first for better suspense. The peddler's smile wrinkles like old parchment. Victorian ladies kept these in their pockets too, believed they preserved youth. He lowers his voice. Did it work? Well, ever seen a portrait where an old crone isn't scowling? You take the acorn, its surface cool, despite the warming air. Historians still argue whether Neolithic tribes ever used acorns as coins, or just ate them desperate when barley harvests failed. The peddler sniffs, adjusting his cloak stitched with what looks like alarmingly human hair. Don't bury it near sidewalks. Roots buckle concrete faster than a drunkard's promises. Under the ash canopy, light shifts, splotching the ground like a leopard's pelt. You think of home, of Yvette's cramped flower bed, the one choked with pebbles and apathy. Of that crumbling bluff overlooking the train tracks, where you once buried a ham radio's broken antenna, hoping it'd sprout better reception. The peddler kneels abruptly, digging a thumbnail into the soil. Earth remembers, but she's a terrible gossip, he grumbles. Tell her nothing private, unless you want oak roots whispering it to wormfolk. The hollow acorn's hole, you notice, breathes faintly, inhaling specks of pollen, as if sampling breakfast. Somewhere far off, geese bicker, their honks clipping the morning quiet. Napoleon, you learned bored in history class, sent acorns to his officers, symbolizing resilience. Didn't help, they got stomped at Waterloo. Resilience, trampled under British boots. The peddler presses a finger against your wrist, calloused, orienting your palm toward the sun. Planted in shadow, it'll grow twisted, nasty thorns, more drama than an Athenian tragedy, he warns. Planted in stone, and the roots'll split rock just to spite you. His cloak flutters, revealing a belt hung with tiny vials, each swirling with dandelion fluff, and what looks like miniature lightning. Optional, he offers, plucking one, moonwater from the 1969 Apollo landing. Not the real stuff, obviously, just Polaroid tears, wept by mission control geeks. Adds sparkle, but might attract raccoons. You decline, politely pocketing the acorn instead. Its weightless presence feels warmer now, nestling against your keys, tickling a half-empty gum wrapper. Funny how something so small demands perfect placement. Like love, or weaponized baking soda volcanoes. The ash leaves rustle overhead, their whisper tongues discussing your departure. The peddler steps back, melding into the trunk's deep grooves, his outline blurring into bark. Don't linger. His voice filters through the branches. Dawns, a jealous paramour hates, sharing secrets with moon-addled wanderers. Your heels pivot, gravel crunching underfoot, each step stripping away the night's mossy magic. Concrete jungles itch in the distance, traffic lights winking awake, taxis coughing their first smoke. Behind you, the hollow acorn hums, its tiny cavern holding a lullaby older than farming, older than fire. Sunrise licks the horizon, burning off the last stubborn patches of shadow. You glance back once. The ash tree stands alone, no peddler, no spiderweb pouches, just bark and leaves, and ordinary dawn light. A single branch dips, as if waving or shrugging. The walk home feels lighter somehow, though your pocket stays stubbornly empty. Later, you'll stand at your rattling apartment window, staring at Yvette's weed-strangled garden. Later still, you'll kneel beside it, digging a hole as deep as indecision, until knuckles scrape brick. But that's another tale, and dawn is calling the day's first committee meeting. For now, your fingers brush smooth, wood earth scent clinging to cuticles, waiting for rain, for time, for roots to begin their slow argument with gravity. The acorn sleeps, dreaming through its hollow heart of canopy and quiet, a forest yet unborn. Dawn leans heavy now, wrapping the ash tree in gold-dusted gauze. Your fingers drift to that hollow acorn, still nestled among keys and lint, its whisper-soft hum syncing with your pulse. Gravel quiets under each step, market chatter, replaced by milk trucks, grumbling awake. The peddler's scent earth and burnt sugar still clings to your sleeves. You cross the bridge, where mist clings to willow branches like torn lace. The acorn warms, as if sun slivers seeped through its corked cap. City sprawl yawns ahead, alarm clocks pinching sleepers from dreams. But here, the river holds its breath. A sparrow lands near your shadow, cocking its head at your pocket. Not today, you murmur, and it flutters off, scolding the air. Your apartment stairwell greets you with echoing fluorescent sighs. Keys jingle breaking mornings, fragile hush. There on the chipped windowsill, Yvette's withered geranium rattles dry leaves. Palm open, you let the acorn bask in sunbeams, filtering through smudged glass. Hollow, yes, yet brimming with unseen tides. Somewhere beneath pavement, worms turn soil into velvet. Roots stretch patient in the dark theater beneath our feet. The acorn needs no moonwater, no speeches, just silent trust. Breathe deep now. Let chill glass under fingertips dissolve. Let jackhammers soften to distant heartbeats. Let taxis blur into river song. That tiny weight in your palm, already dreaming of branches, of rustling crowns that hold stars like dewdrops of roots, braiding themselves through subway tunnels and shattered teacups, anchoring the sky to the deep, patient dark. Close your eyes just until rain comes. Sleep while the seed holds its breath and the world, still spinning, waits to begin again.